Good morning. It's now 5 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Another win for the Trump administration after the Supreme Court said it was acceptable for the President of the United States to use an executive order to downsize the federal workforce. The ruling yesterday by the justices overrode a lower court's order which temporarily froze the cuts enacted by the Department of Government Efficiency. ABC's Devin Dwyer explains.
Now, that order by the president had been challenged by unions, nonprofit groups, local governments. They said it was unconstitutional, that only Congress can approve the restructuring of the federal government. But this was an 8-1 decision, essentially saying that the order itself to begin planning to restructure the entire federal government is okay. But the court was careful to say they take no position on the actual plans, so legal challenges could still come.
And that lone dissension was Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson. The field of Republican contenders for an open congressional seat is getting crowded. Current Congressman John Rose is vacating that seat to run for Tennessee governor. Goodlettsville State Representative Johnny Garrett tells WTN's Matt Murphy he supports the big, beautiful bill.
I absolutely would have voted for the big, beautiful bill. I mean, any opportunity that we get to return money back to Tennesseans is the right thing to do. We should continue to do that. And I don't want to speak for you what your consternation is with that big, beautiful bill, but my sense is that we didn't do enough.
Representative Garrett joins current Congressman John Rose's chief of staff, Van Hillary, Republican Dale Braden, and Democrat Mike Crowley in seeking that seat. Market Numbers Report now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
Stocks ended mixed after an up and down day for both the NASDAQ and the S&P. Investors chose a broad sell-off following President Trump's decision to impose new tariffs next month on more than a dozen nations. The Dow lost 165 points. The S&P was down 4. The NASDAQ added 5. During a cabinet meeting, President Trump announced tariffs on pharmaceutical drugs at a very, very high rate. He also said he would sign an executive order placing a 50% tariff on copper imports. Hershey Company was down 3% after the chocolate maker announced that Wendy's CEO Kirk Tanner will succeed retiring CEO Michelle Buck. Shares in Weight Watchers parent WW International gave up an early gain after the company announced that it has completed its reorganization and relisting on NASDAQ. The company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in May to eliminate debt and focus on its transition into a telehealth services provider. Michelle Franzen, ABC News.
Stock futures this morning are on the plus side. We've got Dow futures up 70, NASDAQ futures gaining 32, S&P futures are up 9. That is the latest news, traffic and weather ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Couple of spots this morning that are very slow. Nashboro Village at Bell Road north of Spring. Make that Smith Springs Road. You've got a crash that's being worked on there. And then in Brentwood, they're continuing to do some road work this morning. It's on Concord Road, westbound side, right at Green Hills Boulevard. And they've only got one lane available to traffic. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.506 Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. Good morning to your friends. Hope you are doing well. And I got to tell you, the Jeffrey Epstein case, just when I thought I was done talking about this, Donald Trump said something yesterday that I got to tell you, very seldom do I get angry with President Trump. But yesterday, he said this during a cabinet meeting.
Yeah, sure. If
Hey, could I just interrupt for
Sure.
1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein at a time like this where we're having some of the greatest success and also tragedy with what happened in Texas. It just seems like a desecration, but you go ahead.
So here's the thing, is that when Trump, because again, if you listened yesterday, I publicly proclaimed, I'm done with this story. I'm so frustrated and irritated with the Trump administration. Then the president said that. And listen, you know that I'm a supporter of the president, but oh my gosh, you want to talk about tone deaf. You want to talk about misreading the base. Donald Trump clearly is misreading the base on this story. And to make it seem like you are some sort of an idiot for wanting to ask questions about the Jeffrey Epstein client list and all of that. I think I was shocked when I saw that audio. I tweeted it out. This just makes the president, I'm sorry, but this just makes the president look bad. And it feels like he's kind of trying to manipulate his base. That's what it felt like. And so here's the deal. The president, and we're going to get into this more at 5:36. The president has a lot to be proud of. I mean, he has an incredible amount of things to be proud of. But at the same time, this is a major blunder. This is a crisis for the president. How do I know it's a crisis? Because the people that have been standing by Donald Trump, there is not anything, according to some of the people that I'm going to play some audio for you coming up at 5:36. But a lot of these people, the influencers and so forth, to them, Donald Trump cannot ever, ever, ever do anything wrong. Even they are turning on the president. So we're going to talk about that coming up here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Also, did you hear the big news? James Comey, I bet you love this story, Joan.
I do.
James
so
Comey
much.
and John Brennan are under criminal investigation related to their part in the beginnings of the Trump-Russia probe. It is about time. Former FBI Director James Comey and former CIA Director John Brennan reportedly under criminal investigation for potential wrongdoing regarding the infamous Steele dossier, according to Fox News Digital. Now, the last thing that I want to do, please trust me on this, the last thing I want to do is regurgitate the 2 years of the Steele dossier, the Mueller investigation, all of those things. But here's the thing, is that when the left, they love to talk about, stolen elections and all of these other things. I believe, and I've said this ad nauseum, I believe that the first 2 years of the Trump administration was stolen by the Democrats, was stolen by the intelligence agencies, because Trump spent the first 2 years of his presidency under perpetual investigation. And he was ultimately cleared, but here's the problem. The problem is that he was handicapped. The president was handicapped for the first 2 years because of this manufactured Steele dossier that the FBI, of course, Hillary Clinton paid for it. Then it made its way to the FBI. FBI sends it over to the media, and the whole thing explodes, ultimately ends up in the Mueller investigation. Donald Trump is cleared. But not before the media, not before the Democrats, and not before some people even on the right came out and said that Donald Trump was colluding with the Russians. The ultimate liar. You want to talk about liar, pants on fire? Adam flippin' Schiff. Every day, he would find a microphone and he would say, "We have heard evidence," when they actually, at the end of the day, had not heard any evidence that Donald Trump colluded with the Russians. So I do love the fact that now James Comey and John Brennan are under criminal investigation. What was that James Comey did with the Seychelles? 8647?
Yep.
Remember that whole thing?
Mm-hmm.
So when I saw this story, I thought, I bet you James Comey regrets that whole 8647 thing. Current CIA Director John Ratcliffe has referred evidence of John Brennan's wrongdoing to FBI Director Kash Patel. What Ratcliffe did was he declassified what they call a lessons learned review of the creation of the 2017 Intelligence Community Assessment on everything that happened with this particular investigation. It's basically an in-house review. Ratcliffe declassified it, and people are now reading it, and they're noticing some inconsistencies between what John Brennan said in front of Congress, under oath, I believe, and what he said behind closed doors. Annie Linsky is the White House reporter for the Wall Street Journal, and she says this is a long time coming.
And it does really underscore, I think, the extent to which this Russia investigation that occurred in 2017, I believe, has stayed under the president's skin and sort of in his craw. He has personally sued members of the Pulitzer board for giving a Pulitzer Prize to the Washington Post and the New York Times, kind of surrounding on this topic. So I think this sort of move fits into this broader concern that the president has about this moment.
I mean, absolutely. The president, remember when he was running for the presidency the second time, and everybody's like, oh, he's going to go after his political enemies. Well, you know what? He should. He should, because his political enemies, they are our political enemies as well. And if there's wrongdoing, if John Brennan and James Comey, if there is wrongdoing which, by the way, there was, and they can be charged for it, if they can be prosecuted for it, if we can send these two dirtbags to jail, then absolutely we should. This is from Fox Digital. In 2016, the Steele dossier paved the roadmap for the FBI's investigation of alleged collusion between Donald Trump's first presidential campaign and Russia. Brennan and Comey previously testified to lawmakers. Sources telling Fox News Digital that the FBI is allegedly viewing the officials' interactions as a conspiracy, potentially opening the investigation to a wide range of options when it comes to charges and prosecution. So the accusation is that they set up traps for the president when he was running, traps for the president to try and destroy his first presidency. What they wanted to do was wrap him up in that special counsel investigation to really prohibit him from doing his job. So their actions led, of course, to the Mueller investigation, which, again, ultimately cleared Trump of any wrongdoing, but not before clearly the damage was done. There's more. I love what Jonathan Turley has to say about all of this, and Devin Nunes. It's all straight ahead. It is 5:15. Time to check the roads on WTN.
Still have that accident scene this morning in Nashboro Village. It's on Bell Road, north of Smith Springs Road. And then the road work being done in Brentwood. It's on Concord Road, westbound past Green Hills Boulevard. And you only have one lane available. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Thank you, Joan. As far as the weather goes today, a high of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. Joan, are we still going with hot and sticky today?
Hot and sticky with the chance of storms.
Just like yesterday.
Yeah. Did you get storms?
Did we get storms?
Really? We haven't gotten any rain in days. And after all of that rain for so long, my garden's dry.
Oh, it's so funny. Okay, let's save our garden talk for 5:35.
Okay.
Because we had a little bit of a controversy at the house yesterday.
Oh, I love getting involved in your controversies.
It's so funny you mention your garden getting dry. It's like Amy texts you, and it's like, hey, bring this up on the show tomorrow, which I know that she didn't. But we had a bit of a garden controversy yesterday at the house. So we'll talk about that on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So real quickly, though, Joan, do you believe that James Comey and John Brennan, do you think they'll ultimately end up going to jail?
I don't.
I don't either.
And that's, nobody's promised that, like they've promised us to see the Epstein files. But that ultimately would be, we'd all love to see the bars over Jim Comey's face, like as he's peering out from behind the bars. That would be my personal.
Because we know what they did.
Yes.
We know what they did. They set a trap for the Trump administration. Don't forget about the FISA warrants and how they went and got those FISA warrants, and they lied about the information getting the FISA warrants the second, third, and I think fourth time, where they got all these FISA warrants on intel that was flawed, and everybody knew that intel was flawed.
And the lives they ruined, General Michael Flynn and his son.
Yep.
And honestly, just there's so much that they did that they don't care about.
Mm-hmm. You're absolutely right. This new by Carter Page, another one.
Yes.
This new information relates to, among other things, that John Brennan wanted to include. This is where it gets into like the nuts and bolts. So in this sort of post-investigation report kind of a thing, John Brennan wanted to include the Steele dossier in the lessons learned review of this whole case within the intelligence community. Even though he and everyone knew, especially now in 2025, and when all of this was going on, that the Steele dossier was not credible. And then he lied to Congress about it, apparently. And so that's part of the dynamic here with John Brennan. And they're really not saying a whole lot about James Comey, only that they worked together as a conspiracy. Jonathan Turley was on with Laura Ingraham. This was last night.
Well, it's obviously a major development. These are two of the top people in the American intelligence system. And there have been these long unanswered questions about what they told Congress. At points, they both seem to adopt the Sergeant Schultz approach of, I knew nothing. If only I knew, I would have done something. That didn't strike many as being very credible. Both of these tend to be somewhat of micromanagers. They take pride in the fact that they follow the details of their departments. And it all comes down particularly to a period in 2017, an intelligence community assessment, an ICA, that went out and viewed the Steele dossier, that infamous dossier funded by the Clinton campaign, as credible. And that, in fact, Steele was credible. They knew that was not true.
Right. They knew that. You know what the thing is with all this? Is they were so blatant about it. Like, they just did not care. They don't care that Steele himself had I don't want to relitigate the whole dossier thing, but the people that were even quoted in the dossier were like, wait a minute, they used that in the dossier? Why would they do that? Even the people that are quoted in the dossier were saying that was nothing but a bunch of bar talk when we talked about, Donald Trump, some of the proclivities that they talked about in that Russian hotel room, the whole situation where he was supposedly colluding with the Russians. And it was just, for the intelligence agencies and people inside the intelligence agencies that were absolutely anti-Donald Trump, well, they didn't care. They didn't care what was right. They didn't care what was wrong. They wanted to stop Donald Trump. The Fox News report, the investigations come a week after Ratcliffe declassified that lessons learned review of the creation of that 2017 intelligence community assessment, which found questionable conduct on John Brennan's part. The review found that the decision by John Brennan to include the infamous Steele dossier ran counter to fundamental tradecraft practices and principles and ultimately undermined the credibility of a key judgment. So now we're getting into all of the legalese. Bottom line is the review reveals that Brennan pushed for the inclusion of the Steele dossier, contradicting, wait for it, his 2023 testimony to the House Judiciary Committee.
The CIA had already said that it had great misgivings about the Steele dossier, even though the Clinton campaign was denying to reporters that it funded the dossier. It was, in fact, funded through the law firm of the Clinton that the Clinton campaign used. And so there's a lot of questions here as to why particularly Comey, for example, signed off on these FISA warrants, these secret court warrants to conduct this surveillance.
Yep.
The other thing, by the way, they knew very early on was that Carter Page, who was such a significant figure in the Steele dossier and the whole Russian hoax, was not only not a Russian spy, but was actually a CIA asset.
Yep.
And so the CIA told the FBI, you're on the wrong road here. You're going after someone who is assisting us. All of that somehow got buried. And what came to the surface was the Steele dossier, which was not only not verified, it had been really shredded by many people in the Intelligence Committee.
Right. And they say, despite these objections, John Brennan showed a preference for narrative consistency over analytical soundness, they say. The new CIA report reviews, when confronted with the specific flaws in the dossier by the two mission center leaders, one with extensive operational experience and the other with a strong analytic background, he appeared to be more swayed by the dossier's general conformity with existing theories other than or rather than legitimate tradecraft concerns. So it sounds like Brennan, he just didn't care what the truth was, even though everybody, it's like more gaslighting from the left. Everybody knew the concerns and the issues with the dossier and all that surrounded it. Everybody knew that there were problems. However, they did not care. The dossier was clearly not a reliable source of intel. Everyone knew that. John Brennan knew that. James Comey knew that. Yet, they wanted it included in this after-mission report. This is Josh Holmes from the Ruthless podcast.
Yeah, I mean, this is obviously new information, but it also corroborates what many of us who've been watching this since 2016 have known all along, which is you had nefarious actors within the intelligence community that were putting their thumb on the scale. I mean, recall just a trip down memory lane. It was Brennan himself was the one who was pushing then Speaker Ryan and then Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to try to issue a statement before the 2016 election alleging Russian interference on behalf of President Trump. Now, obviously, they refused to do that, which then became a big discussion in the Comey, all the Comey investigation and everything else. But this is what kicked it off. It was very, very clearly an inside campaign hatched up somewhere. But these folks were in the middle of it, and I think this investigation is a long time coming.
All right, we'll see where it goes. It is 5:24. By the way, coming up, we've got at 6:35, Jonathan Fahey, the battle over ICE, deportations, and the attempted murder of law enforcement. It's going to be Jonathan Fahey coming up at 6:35. 7:05, Brian Wilson, and I'm really looking forward to 8:05, Dustin Kittle, attorney and farmer here in Tennessee, and he's going to talk about the latest on China buying all of that farmland across America. So really looking forward to that. At 8:05 here on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. At 5:25, Joan Jones has the news at 5:30. Joan.
So how a Texas search, make that a Tennessee, how a Tennessee search and rescue group is helping out in Texas. And a couple of young Democrats arrested for what they did at a county commission meeting. Got those stories coming up here at 5:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning. It's now 5:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. New numbers from the Texas flash floods. Here's ABC's Lionel Moisey.
At least 173 people now unaccounted for. At least 110 deaths are confirmed, many of them children. 27 girls and counselors were killed at Camp Mystic along the Guadalupe River. 5 campers and a counselor still missing.
And a canine search team based in Memphis is in Kerr County now. They're helping with the rescue operations there. The expert handlers and specialized search dogs will search for human remains in the devastation over the next 2 weeks. Well, the money's all dried up. Now parents in Sumner County have to purchase their own school supplies. For the past few years, the schools have used pandemic money to purchase backpacks, pencils, and notebooks for all elementary and middle schoolers.
Oh, it's been so nice not having to pick out colors and folder characters, and it's been amazing.
All right, get back at it, Mom. Amazon Prime, Walmart, and Target all have deals for early bird shoppers right now. And 2 members of the Putnam County Young Democrats have a court date scheduled for next month. Trenton Strode and Aaron Coffer were charged with disrupting the Putnam County Commission meeting last week. Strode denies that he rushed toward the stage in a threatening manner. He spoke to Channel 4.
Instead, I was intercepted by a Putnam County Sheriff's officer who deemed that I was a threat.
Now, that pair were there to challenge the county's involvement with ICE operations to remove illegal immigrants. That is the latest news. We've got traffic and weather ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. We still have some road work happening in Brentwood today. It's Concord Road, westbound past Green Hills Boulevard, with one lane of traffic available there. And it's starting to slow down on 65 as you're making your way toward the city from the north. Traffic every 10 minutes, every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.536, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Dan Mandis here along with Joan Jones. And real quickly, Joan.
Yeah.
I'm sorry to hear about your garden at home.
No, my garden is actually yielding tons and tons of vegetables this year. So
all right, very good. Well, you were lamenting about the fact that
it hasn't rained.
You're not getting the rain that I am getting.
Yeah.
And so the rain gods and the garden gods are blessing my flowers at home, my hydrangeas.
Nice.
I have become, can I just tell you, and then I don't want to do flower talk. I have, though, suddenly become a 90-year-old man when it comes to my hydrangeas.
Have you pruned them since they bloomed?
They're not quite blooming yet.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like we planted them, you know, it's been at least 6, 7, 8 weeks.
Oh, no.
And I'm
may not get
watering
blooms
them
till next year.
Well, we got a couple of little flowers.
Okay.
We got like 3 little flowers. And so I am out there and I nag my wife, did you water the hydrangeas? Get out there and water the hydrangeas. Like before even good morning, I'm bugging her about
like
watering the
Bernie
hydrangeas.
Sanders sounding.
Well, that's what I sound like to my wife, actually. So, and then in the evening time. And so I, of course, told my wife to water the hydrangeas, and I watered them too. And then, of course, we have all of these downpours. So now we have all these stupid little gnats around our hydrangeas. So anyway, whatever. But at some point, those things are going to bloom all purty, and I can't wait. I never thought in a million years that I would be mother henning hydrangeas.
Me neither.
Exactly. So anyway, so we'll see what happens with the weather today. High of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. And looking forward to that.
I keep seeing the maps, and they show that there's going to be rain coming, and then none comes. So I keep thinking, I don't want to overwater the plants.
Right.
So,
right.
You know, I think
because then
I'm
you
gonna
get gnats.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Do you know what Bandit did? Bandit walked up to this was over the weekend. Bandit, I'm outside drinking my coffee, and Bandit walks up to one of my hydrangeas, the one I actually really like because I've got favorites. He lifts up that damn leg, and he pees
on it.
On my favorite hydrangea.
What'd you do?
Bandit! And he wouldn't even listen. He looks at me like, what? As his leg is just still lifted up.
What is he going to do? Stop midstream? No.
Yes, he's a boy. We can do those things. Anyway. All right, so real quick. KGB, we have the Daily Dan poll. Watch us on YouTube if you would. That's my preferred way that you watch. So watch on YouTube, but you can watch us anywhere. You can listen to us anywhere as well on all of the various apps, so on and so forth. Like and subscribe. Daily Dan poll today, I basically said, I want to know from folks, is the lack of an Epstein client list, is this like a deal breaker for you with Donald Trump? It is not for me, but it sounds like this, for some influencers, this might be a deal breaker for them. So what are people saying on YouTube?
Yeah, so I worded basically is how Trump handling the Epstein list a deal breaker for you. 80% say no to 20% say yes.
All right, so yeah, I think all of us understand. I think there's certain things at play that we just don't know about. But what I really did take offense to, and I played this audio about a half hour ago in the open of the show, what I really took offense to was President Trump admonishing anyone who had any questions about the Epstein files and the Epstein client list.
Yeah, sure.
Hey, could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep?
I mean, yeah, they are. Actually, a lot of people are.
That is unbelievable. Do you want to waste the time, and do you feel like answering?
I don't mind answering.
I mean, I can't believe you're asking a question on Epstein.
Well, okay, so it makes a lot of sense to ask those questions on Epstein. It does. And so I think part of what's going on is that the president wants this to go away. We're talking with Matthew Hurt. It was yesterday when we were talking about how President Trump, he does have this uncanny ability, and I've never seen this in a president before, but he does have this uncanny ability to be able to sort of, maneuver his supporters to, look at this, look at that. You know what I mean? It's just like they are very supportive, and I don't believe that it's a cult like people on the left will say. I just believe that Donald Trump has always been really in tune with what is important to his supporters. And I think he's got this one wrong.
Want to hear what Roseanne Barr has to say?
What does Roseanne Barr have to say?
This was in a tweet. Mr. President, yes, we still care about Epstein. Is there a time to not care about child sex trafficking? Read the damn room.
Yeah.
I mean, that's pretty much says.
So let me ask you this, Joan.
Yeah.
Do you believe that when Donald Trump said what he said during that cabinet meeting yesterday, do you think that he was truly surprised at, are you really talking about Epstein? Is anybody still talking about Epstein? Do you think that he meant that? Like, is he really surprised that people are asking questions, or is he trying to manipulate the news cycle?
Yeah, he's just deflecting. He's just manipulating. I don't believe that he can't be serious about it. He's one of those people who's very he cares a lot. He's empathetic for other people. Why would he not feel that same empathy for the girls that are victims in this case?
Well, and it doesn't make any sense. Okay, so
yeah.
So all of these girls were sex trafficked only for one person? I don't buy it. And all those videotapes that they've got, I'm sorry, but I don't buy it. So as far as the camera angle goes, I was actually reading a lot about this yesterday. I was watching some analysis, and the camera angle, it actually doesn't even really show Epstein's cell door. And that minute of missing tape also clearly doesn't help. This is part of what Pam Bondi said yesterday about the defense regarding the lack of a client list. Here's what she said.
Sure. First, to back up on that, in February, I did an interview on Fox, and it's been getting a lot of attention because I was asked a question about the client list, and my response was, it's sitting on my desk to be reviewed, meaning the file along with the JFK, MLK files as well. That's what I meant by that. Also, to the tens of thousands of video, they turned out to be child porn downloaded by that disgusting Jeffrey Epstein. Child porn is what they were. Never going to be released, never going to see the light of day. To him being an agent, I have no knowledge about that. We can get back to you on that. And the minute missing from the video, we released the video showing definitively, the video was not conclusive, but the evidence prior to it was showing he committed suicide. And what was on that, there was a minute that was off the counter. And what we learned from Bureau of Prisons was every night, they redo that video. It's old, from like 1999. So every night the video is reset, and every night should have the same minute missing. So we're looking for that video to release that as well, showing that a minute is missing every night. And that's it on Epstein.
So there you go. So now, one of the things that I find interesting, in CNN, actually, their story right now is they're calling this a MAGA meltdown, because there's a lot of folks that are Donald Trump supporters who are sounding the alarm on this. I think this is fascinating. You know, Megyn Kelly, she is now saying that she wants to get Pam Bondi, Kash Patel, and Dan Bongino all in a room and figure this out. Here's what she said.
I volunteer to do it because I am not conspiratorial, but I totally understand the Epstein case very well and why people have questions about it. I'll sit down with all three of them. Give me Bondi, Patel, and Bongino for 2 hours. Nothing, no holds barred. I can ask anything. And then the audience can see whether they're truth tellers. And I care about them. I don't know Pam as well, but though I know Pam, I don't dislike Pam. I really don't. We go back years at Fox News. Dan is the only one who I consider an actual personal friend. But the audience knows that, and I hope is coloring, that in on assessing my own bias on this. But this is why you have to sort of keep some distance between yourself and the administration, even when they're your friends. You have to be able to report honestly on them and to call out bullshit when you think you smell it. And I think I smell it, and I'm nowhere near dog poop playground. So I think it's coming from Washington, D.C.
I think that'd be amazing. Megyn Kelly with Bongino, Kash Patel, and Pam Bondi. That would be incredible. It won't happen. Of course not. You know what you could do, though? You could do that as like a pay-per-view, and the money would go to victims of sex trafficking.
Yes, I love that idea.
Remember what Donald Trump said yesterday, posting on True Social? We read this live about how well things were going with fighting crime. Remember this? The president posting, the FBI, under the direction of Director Kash Patel and Deputy Director Dan Bongino, going back to basics, locking up criminals and cleaning up America's streets. We have the greatest law enforcement professionals in the world, but politics and corrupt leadership often prevented them from doing their job. That is no longer the case, and now they have been unleashed to do their jobs, and they're going to do just that. Keep it up. Make America safe again, right? So we read that. There are, at last check, and I checked this morning, there are over 7,000 comments on True Social to that one post by President Trump.
Wow.
They're all negative. You want to hear some? We, the people, demand many dozens of Jeffrey Epstein-related arrests and convictions ASAP and right now. Another one. Trump, I've been extremely loyal to you. I'm very pleased with almost everything you're doing, but I absolutely draw the line on this one. If you are who I think you are, brave, big heart, and will stand 10 toes down for what's right, then bring the truth to light. Another one. We have been betrayed by the man who insists on full loyalty. Trump, you betrayed us. Maybe Elon sees something we don't. Now, Elon was out there, and Elon said that Steve Bannon is on the list.
What?
You didn't hear that?
Steve Bannon?
That's what Elon said. Elon is out there saying that Bannon is in the Epstein files. He wrote on X.
Well, he better be right. Or
Steve Bannon should sue the living crap out of Elon Musk. Elon needs to stand back, man. Like, unless you've got proof, shut the hell up. And I say that as a guy who likes Elon Musk. But, he's getting to the point of ridiculousness where he's accusing people of being on this list, Donald Trump and now Steve Bannon. And if you don't have the proof, if you don't have the receipts, dude, you got to stop.
Yeah.
You really do. Did you see Alex Jones?
No.
Alex Jones is actually crying.
I just got to the office. I'm going to go throw up, actually, because I have integrity. And, I just really need the Trump administration to succeed and to save this country, and they're doing so much good. And then for them to do something like this tears my guts out.
So, yeah, and he's doing like a big-time crying face. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like he's in tears. Benny Johnson, another big-time influencer, is also incredibly frustrated, and he does see this as it is. Benny Johnson says, dude, Donald J. Trump, this is a crisis, man.
It's a crisis. There's a crisis. And it's a tough crisis because something is horribly wrong here. This will never go away. It's better to just get out in front of it and prove that you're not covering up anything. And the more you try and cover it up, the more you look guilty or that you're protecting pederasts. You don't want that look.
Right. And we've all been asking the question, okay, so why is Ghislaine Maxwell then behind bars?
Right. And there's so much that had to be revealed during her trial.
Mm-hmm.
There's tons of information. All somebody has to do is tap that file.
That's all they got to do. So there's obviously something being covered up. I think everybody knows it. And I think Donald Trump walked into this situation, and I think that he himself even said,
it's just very strange for a lot of people that the list of clients that went to the island has not been made public.
Yeah, it's very interesting, isn't it? Probably will be, by the way. Probably.
So if you're,
you'll notice this was before, obviously, he took office. But he said, yeah, they might probably be released, maybe.
able to, you'll be.
Yeah, I'd certainly take a look at it. Now, Kennedy's interesting because it's so many years ago. You know, they do that for danger, too, because, you know, it endangers certain people, et cetera, et cetera. So Kennedy is very different from the Epstein thing. But yeah, I'd be inclined to do the Epstein. I'd have no problem with it.
So, I mean, and here's the deal. And I'm not saying anything that nobody already knows or has heard me say 1,000 times. This is a huge gaffe. And I don't know how they fix it short of releasing whatever they have, but then they're liars, right? So they've painted themselves into a corner. They set themselves up to fail, talking big for years, only to get themselves in the positions of power. And now they have betrayed the people that had faith in them. And so now the people that have been screaming, cover up, cover up, cover up for years, they're now the ones that are covering this whole thing up. It is amazing. And so I think, you know, personally, I think this had to be some part of some operation that was so big and so devious and so depraved that it would bring down our government or make us look really bad. We spoke about that yesterday, Joan.
Yeah.
And so I hate to think that Donald Trump is protecting a bunch of pedophiles. I don't believe that he would. I don't believe that Donald Trump is on the list. I think it's got to be something much deeper, far deeper than that. So we'll have to see where this whole thing goes. But for Donald Trump, I mean, this is absolutely a crisis, and they do need to figure it out. Because I don't think that Trump is going to be able to, for lack of a better way to put it, I don't think Donald Trump is going to be able to order his supporters not to question what is going on. Because the reason why Donald Trump supporters support Donald Trump is because his supporters question everything.
And demand transparency.
And demand transparency, Joan.
Heard that we're going to have it for so long.
So you think they might actually, I mean, there's no way they can release Ghislaine Maxwell, is there? I mean, do you think that it sounds like they should if this is...
Right. If there's nothing to it, why is she in jail?
Unless you can say, well, she's in jail because she was trafficking these girls for Epstein himself. That's the only thing I can think of.
Yeah.
So that's the only, or that maybe they were making videos or whatever it is. But I mean,
they've just made the waters muckier instead of making it more clear for everyone.
Oh, this is a disaster of epic proportions. I don't believe this is a deal breaker for Trump's supporters. I really don't. KGB, real quick, what is the current poll? If you're just joining us, the poll is this a deal breaker for you on YouTube? And what are people saying?
79-21 no to yes. So still that the same.
All right, so vast majority of people say this is not a deal breaker. 5:54, and Joan has the news at 6. Joan.
Yeah, it looks like President Trump is giving up on Vladimir Putin, and a sign that kids aren't taking care of their health. That and more coming up here at 6 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
You know that I've been talking about the Glock store for a long time because I've been a customer of the Glock store for a long time. I've bought and upgraded my guns, and I've trained all at the Glock store over the last several years, and you should too, and here's why. Because they carry all the Glocks, factory Glocks and custom Glocks, plus they've got the PBGs, you know, the plain black Glocks, at the lowest price possible at the Glock store. They've also got the factory-colored, competition-ready Glocks, collectible Glocks, custom Glocks, and, of course, the very popular Trump Glocks. And upgrades, yeah, they've got upgrades. red and green dot optics, updated triggers, and upgraded triggers, and the lowest prices on Glock magazines in the country. The best part of this month's deals at the Glock store, you buy a 10-round test pack of 9mm ammo for just $6.99, and you get to try the best Glocks around in their rental department, including the GOAT, the Glock 43X, the most popular concealed carry handgun in the country. Find them online, shoot270.com and glockstore.com. That's my friends at the Glock store, minutes from the airport and worth the drive from anywhere. .558, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Did you hear, Joan, the story of Kamala Harris on The View? That infamous day on The View when she was asked the question, a very simple question, as far as whether or not she'd do anything differently than Joe Biden. Remember this moment on The View?
Oh, yeah, would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
So we all know that that moment really changed. I mean, her campaign was in tatters anyway, but that definitely was one of the nails in the coffin for Kamala Harris's campaign. Have you heard what happened behind the scenes after that?
No.
Oh, wait till you hear it. It's coming up after 6, right here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. Now 6 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. Former CIA Director John Brennan and former FBI Director James Comey, both under criminal investigation now for potential wrongdoing related to the Trump-Russia probe, including allegedly making false statements to Congress. Josh Holmes is host of the Ruthless podcast, speaking to Fox News.
Trip down memory lane. It was Brennan himself was the one who was pushing then Speaker Ryan and then Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to try to issue a statement before the 2016 election alleging Russian interference on behalf of President Trump. Now, obviously, they refused to do that.
Yeah, the full scope of the criminal investigation into Brennan and Comey is unclear right now, but a couple of sources describing to the FBI's view of the duo's interactions as a conspiracy. President Trump has wanted to negotiate the end of the war in Ukraine, but the possibility appears less and less likely.
Well, the president in recent weeks has made it clear that he is disappointed with Russian President Vladimir Putin. The two spoke by phone just a few days ago, and the president walked away from that conversation saying that he wasn't happy. He didn't necessarily feel that Putin was dedicated to actually ending the war with Ukraine. And the president says that he's strongly considering additional sanctions on Russia.
That's ABC's Rachel Scott reporting. It may be time to take charge of your kids' eating habits.
Concerning data from the CDC shows 1 in 3 teenagers now has prediabetes. With prediabetes, blood sugar levels are high, but not high enough to be considered type 2 diabetes, which is linked to heart disease and other conditions. Health experts say kids need to eat healthier and be more active.
It's ABC's Allison Kosick. Market numbers now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com.
President Trump promises details this morning on tariffs on imports from 7 more countries and on another batch coming this afternoon. He's also threatening 200% tariffs on imports of pharmaceuticals. Investors will be watching the White House as the trading day begins. The Dow slipped another 165 points Tuesday to close at 44,241. The S&P backed down a fraction, but the Nasdaq Composite gained a fraction before the close. If this doesn't convince you to immediately delete those unsolicited offers to invest in crypto, nothing will. 2 men have been indicted in a sprawling cryptocurrency investment scam that defrauded victims out of $650 million collectively. And Barbie is joining the millions of Americans living with diabetes. A new Barbie is the first with type 1 diabetes to help raise awareness about the condition. She comes with a polka dot outfit, chunky heels, an insulin pump, and a glucose monitor on her arm. Jim Ryan, ABC News.
Stock futures pointing up with the Dow up 70 right now. The Nasdaq futures are gaining 27, and the S&P futures, they're up 8 points. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather just ahead. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Looks like the commute is starting to slow down now on westbound 24 usual spots this morning. And in Brentwood, you've got road work with just one lane open between on Concord Road westbound just past Green Hills Boulevard. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.606 Nationals Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN, and good morning to you. Hope you are doing well. I always enjoy all my guests, but at 8:05, I'm really looking forward to speaking again to Dustin Kittle. He is an attorney and a farmer here in Tennessee, and he was one of the original whistleblowers when he saw that China, they were buying up all of that farmland, and specifically farmland around military bases. And so he's going to join us coming up at 8:05 here in a couple of hours. So if you've got to go into work, do whatever you need to do, tune back in at 8:05 for Dustin Kittle. Really looking forward to his perspective on this. 7:05, Brian Wilson is going to join us. And later on this hour, Jonathan Fahey and the battle over ICE, deportations, and the attempted murder of law enforcement. I mean, I got to tell you that the more we see the Democrats, it feels like, and I don't want to go off on hyperbole, but it really feels like Democrats in the aiding and abetting of these absolute criminals. Did you know, Joan, we're talking about how yesterday one of the 10 that tried to take out the ICE facility and shoot a bunch of officers in Texas, there were those 10. Not one, but two of them are trans. I don't know if you heard that. It is the craziest thing. And so we've got the latest on that story and a whole lot more here on Super Talk. Big news out of Indiana. And I will get to the story about Kamala Harris and The View coming up. Big news, though, out of Indiana. I want to make sure we get this. 2 illegal aliens accused of, listen to this, murder and strangulation have been caught finally. Because you see, back in 2023, the sanctuary state of Maryland decided not to enforce an ICE detainer, and they just let these guys go. One particular guy decided to just let him go. And so he was on the run. I mean, if this happened in 2023, dude was on the run for 2 years. And these guys were accused of murder and strangulation. And they finally, after they were released by the sanctuary state of Maryland, they were able to find them. Immigrations and Customs Enforcement and Federal Bureau of Investigation agents detained Honduran national and alleged MS-13 gang member Johnny Handy Martinez Barrias. According to a statement from ICE posted on X Tuesday, Martinez Barrias had previously been charged with first-degree murder and possession of a firearm, and they just let him go. By the way, when they stopped this guy in Indiana, another illegal alien was also in the car, Danilo Emilsar Escobar, who was deported 3 times since April of 2024, had pending charges for strangulation, domestic battery, and cocaine possession, according to ICE. Yet it's ICE who are the bad guys. That's the amazing thing. It's ICE who are the bad guys. So now ICE is saying, and the Department of Homeland Security, et cetera, they're saying we're going to keep them both off the streets until justice is served, which will likely include one-way tickets back to Honduras. So again, these are the bad guys that ICE is getting off the streets. Meantime, the left is essentially calling for open season on ICE. The men and women getting these guys off of the streets. Now, in the last several days, we've seen attacks on ICE, and these attacks do continue. I mean, just to review very briefly, Portland, Oregon, an ICE facility attacked time and again On July 4th, you had those 10 people, including 2 trans activists, attempting to murder ICE agents. You go anywhere on the internet this morning, I should post it, but go anywhere this morning, you'll see the vast array of mugshots of these people, and they all look like a bunch of freaks. Then earlier this week, another person shot dead by agents after he charged and attacked ICE officers. And again, that was in Texas. So one of the headlines this morning, attacks are up almost 700% on ICE. Attacks are up almost 700%. Insanity. And the crazy thing is, of course, is the left, they refuse to condemn it.
I have to say a lot of this has to do with the left-wing propaganda, the stuff you hear from Democratic leaders, some of the mainstream media, all they're saying, talking bad about immigration enforcement. It shouldn't happen. And the media, the Democratic leadership that are anti-immigration enforcement need to tone it down, or unfortunately some of these things are going to continue because you got people that are just falling into this propaganda, wanting to make martyrs of themselves.
Yeah, that is a guy named Chris Clem, who is a former Border Patrol chief. He was on Fox News, and he's obviously correct. He's obviously right. The left and the media, they are doing all they can to demonize not the dude that was busted for strangulation and murder. No. They're going to demonize ICE. And that inspires these kinds of attacks.
Why don't they see the need to cross political lines and protect officers?
That's a hard question to answer because I can't understand the ideology and the thinking of somebody that way. These are federal lawmakers, or at least Jeffries is. And then you have Karen Bass, a former congresswoman, now a mayor of a major city, that is not looking at integrity and accountability of enforcing the law and upholding the law. Yep. So it's like they've dug their trenches and they're staying with it. They have, the American people spoke on this last election.
Yeah.
They are for immigration enforcement. Cooperation will save lives and bring the integrity back to the system.
I mean, listen, remember the story that we had yesterday with LA Mayor Karen Bass, right? Where she actually went to MacArthur Park in Los Angeles and demanded that ICE leave as they were looking for gang members like the guys that I just mentioned from Honduras.
Comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now.
I mean, stunning, just absolutely stunning. We're talking about this rumor, this story that was reported by Charlie Kirk, where he said that he was hearing that the Trump administration is considering, or at least Donald Trump is being pressured to have some sort of a mass amnesty. Can you imagine if that is ultimately what happens? I don't believe that Donald Trump will do that, but you never know with some of the people that are in Washington, D.C. Hopefully Donald Trump listens to his constituents. But this is what's going on. And with Karen Bass, remember where this segment started, with the capture of these 2 guys, gang members, who were wanted on violent crime and murder charges. And she is telling ICE to leave. And this is going on, every day, day in and day out, in sanctuary cities and sanctuary states all across the country. Then you have the story from this morning. A guy in New York who has been arrested for posting this about ICE agents. You ready? He said, and this is posted on social media, "I can't wait to put a bullet into his brain. But first, his children." Guy's name is Matthew White. He is 43 years old. He also made other threatening comments, including responding to a video of border czar Tom Homan by saying, well, then understand, if your ICE agents don't show proof of identity and a signed warrant, we will kill them. Guy's threatening, because he's talking about ICE agents in masks. The guy's literally threatening to kill ICE agents. He also allegedly posted, "Kill them all. ICE is the new age Gestapo. Stop them." White is charged with communicating interstate threats. He made his first appearance in federal court last week and has been released from custody with conditions. He's been released from custody with conditions. Really? See, to me, that's a guy that needs to be in prison. That's a guy that needs to be held because he is clearly not of sound mind. I mean, you're posting this on the socials. And so Tom Homan had quite the response to this kind of thing. I've got that great audio coming up. It is 6:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. Weather today, high of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. So I just told you the story of this guy, Matthew White, who thought that it would be a good idea to threaten ICE agents on the socials. So, of course, word gets around to Tom Homan. He says, look, we're not going to be bullied.
The rhetoric against the men and women of ICE is skyrocketing, especially by members of Congress. We have senators, we have Congress people that compare ICE to the Nazis, compare ICE to racists, and it just continues. So the public thinks, well, if a member of Congress can attack ICE, why can't we? So the rhetoric has to stop.
Yeah, the rhetoric does have to stop. And you have all of these various blue cities like Portland and Chicago and, of course, Los Angeles threatening Tom Homan, threatening ICE as well, saying, don't come here, don't come to our towns, even though ICE is picking up people wanted for murder, strangulation, all those kinds of things. They're putting criminals over law enforcement.
I'm going out there. They're not going to bully us or you know, we're going to do the job. We're going to do it in Portland too. But for the mayor of New York City and Chicago, President Trump made it clear 2 weeks ago. We're going to double down and triple down on sanctuary cities. Yes. Why? Not because they're blue, because we know there are recent public safety threats to the streets every day.
Every day. Every single day. Democratic lawmakers saying Monday that their constituents are encouraging violent acts against immigration agents, with some even suggesting they should be willing to get shot to grab media attention. Now, I don't know, Joan, I don't want to be hyperbolic here, but have you heard any Democrats anywhere trying to tamp down that rhetoric? I have not seen anyone say that at all. And so it is interesting. I wonder how many of those Democrats are telling their supporters to not do that. Now, Mark Wayne Mullins, he is, of course, a senator.
The most damning thing about this is this absolutely silence from the Democrat Party. If this was any other time, you'd have every Democrat out there saying that we need gun control, and that'd be the first place they ran to. Now they're not saying a word about it. At the same time, President Trump is trying to install law and order back in these blue states, in these blue cities where these criminals are running rampant, and this is a criminal attack.
She's absolutely right. Again, you had in that text, people are saying it was Antifa, right? People are saying trans-Tifa. I think that's what it is, where 2 of those 10 were trans. But you did have that Texas attack, and people are saying that was Antifa. And all of this is basically brought to you by the Democrats. And again, remember the story from Axios earlier this week that I just referenced about how the base of the Democrat Party, they want blood. They want violence. They say not enough is being done to stop Donald Trump. So if they want blood, I hate to say it, but if they want blood, they're going to get blood. And one of their own has already been shot and killed by ICE agents earlier this week. So this is going to get worse, it seems, before it gets better. And as the Democrats have not been calling for the violence to stop, as a matter of fact, it does seem to me that their silence does speak volumes. It is 6:19 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. More on this and a lot more from Jonathan Fahey coming up at 6:35 here on Nashville's Morning News. All right, there's a new book on the failed campaign of Kamala Harris because, you know, it clearly was one bad decision after another. And there's some new light being shed on this now infamous moment on The View.
Would you have done something differently than President Biden during the past 4 years?
There is not a thing that comes to mind in terms of, and I've been a part of most of the decisions that have had impact.
So remember, that was a big moment in the campaign. A new book out actually is now claiming that Kamala Harris's aides, they were backstage, and they realized how bad that was. They realized that Kamala Harris made a huge mistake and actually begged Kamala Harris and The View hosts to redo that question so that Kamala Harris could redo that answer, which, of course, never happened.
She gives that answer, and our book reports her aides backstage head in their hands. They try to get the host to actually do the question again to hopefully revise her answer, which she never does. So.
Yeah, that's a guy named Josh Dawsey. He was on MSNBC. Dawsey, Washington Post reporter Isaac Arsdorf, and New York Times reporter Tyler Pager's new book, 2024, How Trump Retook the White House and the Democrats Lost America. That was released yesterday. The new book explains that Kamala Harris aide Stephanie Cutter asked two of the co-hosts to try asking Harris the question again. This is how they describe it. Backstage on the View set in Manhattan, Rob Flaherty, a deputy campaign manager, put his head into his hands and swore. During the next commercial break, Stephanie Cutter went to co-hosts Whoopi Goldberg and Ana Navarro to ask them to try the question again. But Harris didn't get that second chance. After the interview, Harris knew that she had messed up and asked how big the problem was, the authors wrote. An advisor said her answer on the liberal ABC talk show was the defining error of the campaign, the authors reported. Harris, and by the way, this is what's interesting. Harris did not give the answer that she was prepared to give with her aides. They had rehearsed. They had come up with, the perfect 20, 25, 30-second soundbite for her to give because she knew that this question, no doubt, was going to come. Apparently, she just completely decided that she was not going to give that answer, which, if she had done it the way that she had rehearsed, she would have praised Joe Biden and emphasized that she did not want to look back and critique the administration. The prepared answer also acknowledged that she was her own person. Her aides also encouraged her to mention that she planned to appoint a Republican to her cabinet, which the former vice president did mention towards the end of the interview. So that is also part of the news cycle today. Unbelievable. And the fact that they wanted a do-over in the middle of the show, and that she didn't get one, by the way, actually speaks volumes. I think that even the people working with Kamala Harris at the time knew how fatal that error was. It is 6:23 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Joan Jones has the news at 6:30. Joan.
Yeah, we'll take a look at what's happening in Texas today as the search continues for those who are still missing after those floods. That's coming up here at 6:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dan Mandis here for my friends at Contours. Listen, if you are struggling to get into that bathing suit, check out my friends at Contours. They can help you right now. Of course, we are in the middle of summer, and they can help you with a belly buster special. Most folks who go through this process lose 2 inches across the middle. Now, Chad Benson, myself, we have both gone through this. We love this red light technology. You can take advantage of Contour's red light technology as well. It is not only incredibly unique, but it is also effective. And right now, first 10 callers get to take advantage of that $99 belly buster special from Contours. That phone number right now is 615-236-9960. Again, you call right now, take advantage of Contours and that summertime special and fit into that bathing suit. They can help you. 615-236-9960, 615-236-9960. That cutting edge, incredibly unique red light technology. It is effective. Check it out. Find out how it all works and see what else Contours can do for you. Their website is great, contoursllc.com. That's contoursllc.com. And don't forget, $99 belly buster special right now to the first 10 callers, 615-236-9960.
How would you like to have Jesus Christ pray for you? Did you know that Jesus Christ does pray for you if you're a Christian? Hebrews 7:25 says, "Therefore he is able also to save forever those who draw near to God through him, since he always lives to make intercession for them." In Scripture, intercession means to pray on behalf of. Jesus Christ is your advocate. An advocate comes to our aid or pleads our case to a judge, offering support and counsel and interceding for us when necessary. In other verses, Jesus calls the Holy Spirit our advocate. Just like you talk to yourself, when Jesus talks to himself, it's prayer. The Bible says no matter what you go through today, next week, or next year, Jesus is praying for you if you have trusted him as your Savior. He's on your side.
629, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. You want to do an I Can Feel Your Anger update? 2213 says, Dan, go to work for a gossip rag and shut up about the pervert.
Wow.
He says, your audience doesn't even care about perverts. Well, they do when it is part of a governmental cover-up. And by the way, 2213 also says, and by the way, your dog peeing on your flowers once in a while is actually going to help them with brighter colors and more blooms.
Oh.
Is that true? I had no idea that was true.
You could probably look that up.
So I shouldn't have yelled at Bandit for peeing on my flowers.
In fact, I think you need to apologize to Bandit.
You know what? I gave him a piece of cheese this morning. He's fine. It is 6:30 on WTN.
Good morning. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories, and rescuers are still combing the riverbanks near Kerrville, Texas, where at least 5 of those Camp Mystic campers are still unaccounted for. ABC's Lionel Moisey reporting.
Across Kerr County, first responders are combing through debris with traces of children scattered, pastel-colored trunks now lined up. Records obtained by ABC News show just 2 days before the flood, state officials signed off on Camp Mystic's emergency plans.
More than 170 people remain unaccounted for. Now, flash flooding has also hit New Mexico, and now a man and 2 children have been killed and more than 50 others rescued by emergency crews. Officials say the Rio Ruidoso rose to a record-breaking 20 feet. It's 5 feet higher than the previous record. A 19-year-old Nashville man is about to undergo his 7th surgery in 2 weeks after being hit by an ambulance while he was crossing Murfreesboro Pike. WSMV4 Steve Mailing says that a GoFundMe has been started for 19-year-old Travis Crutcher.
Crutcher was attempting to cross Murfreesboro Pike on June 22nd. He waited for the light to turn from green to yellow, then began to cross after one car stopped and waved him on. Crutcher claims he didn't see the ambulance coming and had his headphones in. The report says the NFD ambulance was going 45 miles an hour.
And the report says that the driver of the ambulance claims that Crutcher darted across the intersection right before he was hit. August will be a busy month for convenience store Wawa. New stores are breaking ground around here in Murfreesboro on August 12th and in Clarksville on August 13th. Now, these will be the first Wawa locations in Tennessee. The stores currently operate in 12 states and Washington, D.C. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
You know, I've had Wawa.
Yeah? Are you
And
impressed?
You know what I thought when I had Wawa?
What'd you think?
Wah, wah.
Okay.
632, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Change is always happening. It is part of life. And when it comes even to music, change is all around us. Songs are rewritten, classics are remixed, bands and artists come and go. Even our taste in music changes. But no matter how things change in 5 years, there is one thing that is going to stay the same. That's the price of your internet. Now, Xfinity is introducing a 5-year price guarantee. Nobody ever does that. Xfinity is a 5-year price guarantee. It means that you get 5 years of the most reliable Wi-Fi with their best equipment included for a price that stays exactly the same. If you're surprised, well, life, of course, is full of them. One internet price, 5 years guaranteed. Learn more at Xfinity.com/deals. Restrictions apply. New residential customers only. Taxes and fees extra and subject to change. Most reliable Wi-Fi based on Open Signal Awards USA. Fixed Broadband Experience Report, August 2024. .634 on Nashville's Morning News on WTN. And Joan, we have a bit of a kerfuffle with one of the listeners who has noticed some inconsistency in what the host has to say about a topic we just discussed. So we're going to talk about that very briefly when we come back because I'm being accused of spreading fake news.
Oh.
So that is
this dog pee?
We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it coming up. 6:34, and Jonathan Fahey is going to be joining us here in just a second as well. Friends, if you're maxed out on credit cards, if you're struggling with high-interest debt, you could pay it all off in days with Loan Pronto's Rapid Equity Loan. You can get cash out right now without touching your low-rate first mortgage. No appraisals, no waiting, and no BS. The Rapid Equity Loan program at Loan Pronto, it is amazing. Now, one Loan Pronto client just got, listen to this, $300,000 approved in under 24 hours. They paid off debt, renovated their kitchen, and cut their monthly expenses by $1,800. That is a huge turnaround. Loan Pronto, instant approvals, low rates, no hard credit pull up front. Now listen, this is your home equity, and you should use it. Get cash to consolidate your debt down to one easy, low monthly payment. Call them. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. 615-499-5780. 615-499-5780. Get debt relief right now at loanpronto.com. Equal housing lender, NMLS 166-1781. Unapproved credit, NMLS, consumeraccess.org.
Oh, I'm here. Sorry. Well, it looks like at Brentwood, the road work is still ongoing on Concord Road on the westbound side past Green Hills Boulevard. And delays now stacking up on 24 in the westbound lanes, especially around the Laverne area this morning. 40 looks okay, and 65 heading in, and 24 as you head southbound. Though at the convergence there, it looks like it's now starting to slow down. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.637, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. As far as your weather today goes, high of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. Appreciate you listening. So, Joan, earlier, I had made mention that I had given Bandit some cheese.
Yes.
I am always astonished at how perceptive our listeners are. Sally sends me this note, and she says, well, Dan, you said you gave Bandit some cheese, and he is fine. Is this the same Bandit you said doesn't like cheese anymore because you kept putting drugs in it?
That's right. You did say that.
You know, so he didn't freak out over thunderstorms and fireworks?
Yeah.
Which is it, Dan?
Yeah, Dan.
So, honest to goodness, it's the orange cheese that we would put the pills in. He won't take the orange cheese anymore. However, I did give him some string cheese, which is not orange. It's white, and it's a completely different shape.
I didn't know that dogs could see colors. I always thought they couldn't see colors. Maybe it's the scent.
It could be the
cheese.
scent. It could be the fact that it's a different shape because string cheese is like a pencil. You know, it's like long. It's not. What shape is whatever? Jonathan Fahey is joining us. What shape is string cheese? I don't even know. What is that? Like long and round? It's like a pencil shape. Jonathan Fahey, you're a lot smarter than me. What shape is string cheese?
Yeah, it's long and round.
Cylindrical.
And I think it would be the smell that would probably trigger it, possibly smelling the medicine within the cheese would be my thought.
There you go. Jonathan Fahey, excellent attorney as always.
Thank you very much.
Okay, very good. All right. Now, anyway, that's the story about Bandit and the cheese. Let's talk about a number of different things, Jonathan. Of course, waking up this morning and yesterday afternoon, we heard that there is now an investigation into John Brennan and James Comey. And they're now apparently under some sort of a criminal investigation regarding their part in the beginnings of the Trump-Russia probe. Now, you and I both know, I mean, you were there in the Trump administration first go-round. And so this is about the dirty dossier and the origins of the dirty dossier, of course, paid for by the Clinton campaign. Ultimately, it makes its way into the FBI. It makes its way into the media. It leads to the Mueller investigation. I mean, I don't want to go through all of the details here, all of the nooks and crannies, because it's very complicated. But I think this is a good thing because they might actually be held accountable now for, in my opinion, setting up the first Trump administration.
Yeah, if you really look at that first administration, in so many ways, it was derailed by this investigation, right? Because you look at the first 6 months of the Trump 47 term and all that's been they've been getting done. And the first term, they had to spend so much time dealing with investigations and things like that. So it is a big deal, and it's worth getting to the bottom of it. It is kind of, there wasn't that much information on it, but it does seem to be, I guess the issue was with John Brennan that they're saying he testified one way in Congress about not wanting to include the Steele dossier and like an intelligent assessment, but then there's documentation indicating the otherwise, I guess is what they have. So that seems to be, could be problematic from him if it's that clear cut. But one thing that's really important with criminal investigations, most criminal investigations federally or criminal charges have a statute of limitations of 5 years. So if he had lied to Congress in 2020, or I think that was the year, we may be at the point or have passed the point where a viable prosecution can occur. There could be also a conspiracy associated with that and other types of things that might, sort of make that longer. But that's one thing that I think might not derail them finding out what happened, but derail them being able to bring charges. And the Comey thing, it wasn't as clear, at least from the articles I read, but I assume it's the same type of thing as the Steele dossier that was provided by the Clinton campaign, which is probably one of the dirtiest political moves I can ever think of, and it hasn't gotten its fair attention. But that was included in multiple FISA warrants, and I think the question is, were they aware, and was Director Comey aware that this was provided by the Clinton campaign? And I think that's an interesting question because I don't think that information was provided to any of the judges that were signing off on the warrants. And that's kind of a big deal because they've since acknowledged that the Steele dossier, without it, they don't believe they could have obtained these warrants. So it seems like a relevant fact to put in there. But a lot of that part of it I'm kind of speculating on, but that's what makes sense is where his the FBI's involvement touches into this thing.
Well, and everybody knew that the dirty dossier, once you read into it, the accusations, the rather seedy accusations about the hotel room and Trump and, all those kinds of things, we just, over time, we began to realize that it was so completely BS. And of course, then the Mueller investigation ends up the way that it ended up, which is, essentially clearing Donald Trump. But I think that James Comey, this is a guy, and of course, we all remember a few weeks ago, 86-47 on the beach. Everybody remembers that conversation. But I think I'm so cynical. I'm just going to tell you, Jonathan Fahey, I'm so cynical that anything is going to come of this, because it seems to me like nothing ever really does come of these things, these investigations into the evildoers in the swamp.
Yeah, I think that's probably a fair prediction on a lot of these things. And a lot of these things, I think the problem is they start off with so much fanfare, and then if they sort of peter out or don't result in some massive, uncovering of some massive conspiracy or something else, everyone's disappointed. And I do think in some respects it's sort of like on the front end, maybe there may not be that much more there than we already know, right? That It's, with John Brennan and some of these other people, it may just be, we know what we know from the Durham report and other stuff, which is a lot of, sloppy work, a lot of things that, questionable motivations, but don't amount to necessarily criminal activity. And that's at least a possibility that's on the table. That has to be on the table. And one thing I expect that Donald Trump knows, and the administration knows, how the justice system was politicized against them. So I don't think they're going to, if it's not something that is a clear-cut, strong case, they're not going to charge people just for political reasons. I really believe that, because part of it, because they didn't do it even before he was investigated. They weren't doing it under the first Trump term, but also he knows how bad that was, not just for him, but for the country.
Is there a possibility, I'm going to ask you this question, then I'll get your answer on the other side. Is there a possibility that there might be some news management going on here? Y'all, what's going on with the Epstein files. There's no Epstein client list, and yes, he did commit suicide, and the base is really angry. All of a sudden, here we are with this investigation into James Comey and John Brennan. I'm just wondering if there's a bit of, distraction game being played. Maybe, maybe not. I'm just spitballing on that. It is 6:45. Time to check the roads on WTN. As far as your weather goes, it looks like it's going to be hot and sticky again today, with the high around 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. The feels like temperature probably going to be up towards 100 degrees. Thanks for listening. All right, so Jonathan Fahey, you think there might be some news management going on here? It's like, well, there's no Epstein client list, and he really did commit suicide, even though we've all been talking about this for years. But we're going to go after James Comey and John Brennan.
Yeah, I think there's some, like on the surface, there's a coincidental factor, but I do think, just to take the non-cynical view for a second, I do think they were going to do a deeper dive into some of the Russiagate stuff anyway. Yeah. Whether or not it got announced at this time, who knows? But it is a standard Washington move. It's typically the Democrats pull it off. It's the Friday night news dump, and they know the media will give it a surface, just very minimal coverage on like a Friday, and then let it die over the weekend, and it never gets heard of again. And fortunately, like for the Democrats, they get away with it because the media is complicit in all of that stuff. But it is, a lot of these things, you could certainly piece them together. But also with Donald Trump world, there's always news. It's not like the Biden world where really there wasn't any news. There'd be days and days where he didn't do literally anything, and we almost had to not make up news, but just talk about stuff around the edges because there was nothing really going on there. And President Trump, there's literally like 3 or 4 big news events every single week. We just had Netanyahu here. We have these things that are like would ordinarily be like massive news stories, and they really are. They get like a day of traction, and then there's the next news story. So, I think people could see it this way, and I think that the Epstein thing, the same type of thing. People get so excited about it, and it gets ginned up in the news, and sometimes you need to recognize the possibility maybe there isn't anything there, or the other alternative is like if you release names of people, if you're DOJ, there's probably a lot of liability issues on their end because there's a lot of putting people in certain lights if their name just happens to be associated with something, and that might be a consideration when you're releasing things like that. Because when I was a prosecutor, the only names you typically release are charged defendants, and you wouldn't release names of witnesses and things like that in ordinary course of handling a case.
All right, so we've got 2 minutes left. Let's talk a little bit about illegal immigration. I know that you saw the performance of Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass earlier this week.
Comment is they need to leave, and they need to leave right now.
That is, of course, Karen Bass, not talking about MS-13 that have infiltrated MacArthur Park in Los Angeles. She's talking about the ICE agents that were there to get MS-13 and these other various gang members and so forth. So give me your... there's a lot going on with illegal immigration. We have what happened in Los Angeles. We also have in Indiana a couple of, bad guys, gang members that were busted here in the last 24 hours. They were wanted for, charges related to murder, strangulation, these kinds of things. Yet, again, the Democrats, their narrative is that it's ICE. They are the ones that are breaking the law. They are the bad guys, not the bad guys they're trying to arrest.
It's so shameful when you think about it. And, Karen Bass, it's just, there's so much you can say about her, but it's just pathetic. And it's also, there is the biggest reveal has gone on in the last few months about the Democratic Party because, again, we've talked about it before, but the last campaign, Democrats were talking about how they were in favor of border security. We know that is 100. We knew that at the time, but I think almost everyone now knows they are for full-on open borders, full-on amnesty, because they fight every single deportation. Nobody said a peep about the border security Donald Trump's achieved in the first 6 months. So we know what they're about. These are the people they will call ICE agents, Nazis, and other things. But if you were to call an illegal alien, they would go apoplectic. You have to use their, whatever the preferred euphemism. Remember the word that non-citizen that Mayorkas would always use. Which
sure, visitors.
Yeah, all that stuff. But it's fair game to call an ICE agent a Nazi. It's just beyond preposterous. But yeah, they don't care. They put MS-13 members ahead of the citizens of the United States and our law enforcement officers. They fight every single deportation as hard as they can to make it harder, and also it elevates them within the Democratic Party. Because look at Los Angeles. It's a disaster. California is a disaster objectively. They haven't built, I don't think they've been rebuilding any of the houses that were burned down 6 months ago, but yet this is the type of thing they spend their time on. It's truly astonishing, but it actually helps her because it's a big distraction from her incompetence. Just fight ICE. You're a hero in the Democratic Party, and you can be an utterly incompetent mayor as she is, or Gavin Newsom that's really driven that state into the ground, but he's a hero in the Democratic Party for, quote unquote, standing up to President Trump, whatever that means. Hardly takes courage in the Democratic Party. Just oppose everything he does, and they act like that's somehow impressive.
What an easy gig that is. All right, I've only got like a minute left.
It's so easy. Yeah,
I only got a minute left.
So
Charlie Kirk had made mention that there is the possibility that President Trump is being pressured into some sort of a, I'm gonna air quote this, mass amnesty. I don't know what that means. I think I know what it means, but I don't know if that pertains to this case. I think what he is talking about is what was referenced and you and I spoke about a few weeks ago, where the farmers and also the hospitality industries need, some illegal aliens apparently to work for them. And so they're talking about maybe giving them amnesty. What have you heard? What do you think about that? I've only got 60 seconds.
I think there will be no amnesty given. I think, President Trump, I mean, he's always open to ideas, and you see that with everything. But I think, the move is for any of these industries is figure out a way to, if we need guest workers, to have guest workers, not to reward the people that came here illegally. But the trick with guest workers or anything else, we've got to do something with birthright citizenships. Because if you come over here to do a job and then have a kid, all of a sudden the kid becomes a citizen, and for all intents and purposes, a lot of times the parents do. So I would be shocked. I know there are people that push for it, but the amnesty is not going to happen.
No, it seems to me they could just fix the visa system, get all these folks on visas and get them up to date, and then there you have it. They're here on visas, and that's what needs to be fixed ultimately.
And they have to leave when they're over. Yeah,
that's exactly right. All right, Jonathan, real quick, how can people find you on X?
John for Fairfax, JONFORFAIRFAX.
All right. Appreciate it. And by the way, if you follow me on X, you can also find Jonathan there. We follow each other. It is 6:53, and Joan Jones has the news coming up at 7.
Yeah, big score for the Trump administration from the Supreme Court and the rescue of a couple of kids in Georgia. Wait till you hear the audio from this. That's coming up here at 7 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dan Mandis here. I've been regaling you with stories of my upstairs bathtub that has holes in it. It is ugly. It does need a lot of work. And if you've got a bathtub like I do that needs a lot of work, I want you to meet my friends at Zentex. Now, they can help you. They've been in business since 2001, remodeling bathtubs and fixing bathtubs and showers as well. Now, Zentex, they can remodel your shower. They can remodel your bathtub. They can even convert your bathtub into a walk-in shower. They do great work. Check out their website, Zintex.com, Zentex.com. They've got all kinds of examples as to what they can do for you. Now, you know that these types of home improvements, they can increase the value of your home, and Zentex, they can have it wrapped up in a day. Now, this is an award-winning company that offers limited lifetime warranties for both their products and their installation. You can make your bathroom safer with a walk-in shower complete with grab bars and bench seats for the older folks in your life. So fix, remodel, or convert your bathtub into a shower today with Zentex. And right now, a great deal going on. You mentioned WTN, you get $1,750 off or no interest for 24 months, whichever works best for you. Also, no payments for 2 years. Zintex, Zentex.com.
Jesus came to earth the first time to save the world. The next time he comes will be to condemn the world and those who have refused to accept him as their Lord and Savior. Christians are co-heirs with Christ and possess full rights as sons and inherit salvation, eternal life, the earth, the kingdom of God, and all things. If you're not a Christian and have wondered about eternal life, God may be drawing you. Accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior, for only God can save you.
No matter what I've ever done.
No matter what I've ever done.
No matter what you've ever done.
But what about?
No matter what you've ever done.
Even if?
You are no longer condemned, no matter what you have ever done. Non-cancelable, guaranteed reservation in heaven when you accept Jesus Christ as your Lord and Savior. Learn how now.
6:59, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 89.7 WTN. It is Wednesday, and you know what that means. It's Wilson Wednesdays coming up. And looking forward to talking to Brian about all kinds of stuff, including the Epstein chaos. And also another big victory. I haven't even gotten to this yet, but another big victory for the president at the Supreme Court. And one lone justice was the dissenter. I'll give you one guess as to who it is.
I think we all know.
Ketanji Brown Jackson.
Yeah.
I think they're going to make her
spoiled it.
I think they're going to make her take the short bus to the Supreme Court building because she is not impressing her fellow justices. So we'll talk about that and a whole lot more straight ahead with Brian on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. It's now 7 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. There's a crash to tell you about this morning. It's on 65 northbound June Lake. Now, this is just past June Lake Boulevard, exit 55, and it's causing a big delay this morning. You may need some extra time if that's your normal travel route. Another win for the Trump administration after the Supreme Court said it was acceptable for the president of the United States to use an executive order to downsize the federal workforce. That Tuesday ruling by the justices overrode a lower court's order, which had temporarily frozen the cuts enacted by DOJ. ABC's Devin Dwyer explains.
Now, that order by the president had been challenged by unions, nonprofit groups, local governments. They said it was unconstitutional, that only Congress can approve the restructuring of the federal government. But this was an 8-1 decision, essentially saying that the order itself to begin planning to restructure the entire federal government is okay. But the court was careful to say they take no position on the actual plans, so legal challenges could still come.
And of course, as Dan just said, Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson was the lone dissension. The field of Republican contenders for an open congressional seat is getting crowded. Current Congressman John Rose is vacating that seat to run for Tennessee governor. Goodlettsville State Representative Johnny Garrett tells WTN's Matt Murphy he supported the Big Beautiful Bill.
Absolutely would have voted for the Big Beautiful Bill. I mean, any opportunity that we get to return money back to Tennesseans is the right thing to do. We should continue to do that. And I don't want to speak for you what your consternation is with that Big Beautiful Bill, but my sense is that we didn't do enough.
Representative Garrett joins current Congressman John Rose's Chief of Staff Van Hillary, Republican Dale Braden, and Democrat Mike Crowley in seeking that seat. Some concerned passersby in Georgia are being called heroes today. They called police to report two small children in a locked car in a mall parking lot.
And there were two children in a car by themselves, small kids crying. Hi, honey, it's okay. Hey, you're okay.
Police arrived quickly. They broke the windows and rescued those kids. Now, their body cameras recorded the temperature inside the car at 117 degrees. The dad showed up more than a half hour after police. He's been charged with 2 counts of child cruelty. 2 things to watch for today. President Trump said he'll announce trade actions affecting at least 7 countries this morning. The president sent letters to more than a dozen countries this week outlining tariffs that they'll face if they don't reach trade agreements by August 1st. Also, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth is meeting with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu this morning at the Pentagon. This is a follow-up to the Trump-Netanyahu meeting yesterday on a potential ceasefire with Hamas. Market numbers report brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. We've got stock futures all pointing up this morning as investors monitor the President Trump tariff developments. That's the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. Okay, we've got accidents now galore. Crash in Laurel Hill. It's on Bell Road at Edge O'Lake Drive. One involving injuries in Nashboro Village on Bell Road at Smith Springs Road. There's a crash at June Lake, 65 in the northbound lanes, just past June Lake Boulevard exit. And in Nashville, the traffic light is out on Lebanon Pike at Spence Lane. Careful there. And in Brentwood, you'll want to slow it down this morning. Concord Road westbound at Green Hills Boulevard. The road work continues. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.707 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And welcome on in to your Wednesday. It is July 9th of 2025. It is Wednesday, and it's time for our weekly visit with one Brian Wilson. Brian, how are you?
I'm doing very well, Dan. How was your holiday? Did you have a good time?
We did. We actually went and waded into the downtown area, took a trip down Broadway.
Yeah. What an amazing fireworks display that was. I saw it on TV.
Yeah. Did you watch the drone? The drone presentation?
It's amazing. Having a little, I mean, I have a couple of drones that I've owned over the years that I'd sort of a hobby for me, photography. But, I mean, it's amazing what they can do with those drones now. Just astonishing.
Now, do you think,
stayed here for the Watertown Squirt Gun Parade. And by the way, Chris Hand and his lovely family were there. They came over to get squirted and then to hang out at the pool afterwards. Let me tell you, Chris Hand has the nicest kids I've ever met in my life.
They're great.
They're just the sweetest, most adorable kids. It's so rare to see someone of that age walk up to an adult, look you straight in the eye, and shake your hand and say, "Thank you so much for having us over." It was just
speaks volumes about the parents, right?
It really does. And he's got those kids dialed in. They're just delightful. We enjoyed having them over.
All right, real quick, do you think, yes or no, Brian, do you think drones will eventually replace fireworks on the 4th of July?
Let me tell you what's going to happen with drones, the next big thing. And nobody's really talking about this. And I think it's in Mount Juliet and maybe other jurisdictions around here. The police department will have a drone system that is on the roof of the police building. And when they need to look at something, and there's a big call that goes out, they launch that drone much like a police helicopter to get you eyes over the scene and to see what's going on. And so they will now be launching drones in a law enforcement capacity, much in the way the Metro Nashville Police Department spends, millions of dollars to run their helicopters. This will be the thing for law enforcement going forward. Everybody wants a drone on the roof of their building to launch and support and give air support to their troops on the ground.
Well, what I love, and then we'll get to some other content, but what I love is, as a guy who lives in Mount Juliet, is they do embrace technology to take out the bad guys, whether it's license plate readers, now drones. I love it because, all these bad guys from from Nashville. I don't know why they do this. It's like they don't read, which they
it's
probably
like they don't know not to go to Wilson County.
Yeah, man, don't go to Mount Juliet. We got drones. We got license plate readers. So come on. All right, real quick.
I can't tell you the number of arrests that get made. And you wonder why in the world won't Nashville go ahead and do that? Because it is really something that assists police officers. I know for some people it's controversial, not for me, because I've done my study on how those systems work. And I think there are safeguards in place, and I think that the benefit of getting really bad people off the streets is worth the investment.
Well, and I think just my 2 cents. I think Nashville is like a lot of Democrats. They're just pro-criminal and anti-cop.
Yeah.
Real quick headline: Supreme Court clears the way for Trump and his plans to downsize the federal workforce. Is it just me, or is Donald Trump getting victory after victory at the Supreme Court level?
The winning just continues, and this is a big one because, every time he tried to do something that would reduce the size of government, somebody would jump up and file a lawsuit, and it got to be ridiculous what these lower court judges were doing. Now the Supreme Court says we're not really ruling on the merits of the case, but just that you can't shut down an effort nationwide if you're a local district judge. You just can't do that. And everybody agreed on that except Ketanji Brown Jackson.
So is she becoming the joke of the Supreme Court? Because there's been a lot of talk about how Amy Coney Barrett and Ketanji Brown Jackson, they got into it in one of the earlier rulings.
Yep, right.
And now she is the only dissenting vote. And I mean, you watch this stuff much closer than I do, but does that often happen where there's only one dissenting vote?
It does happen. I mean, it depends. It depends on what's going on out there and how they want to handle it. But I mean, yes, it does happen. And she is way out there on the left side. Nobody wanted to touch this besides her. Apparently, the decision has been made by the other remaining members of the High Court, 8 of them, that indeed this lower court stuff had gotten out of control. And they're not really ruling on the issue, just saying that you cannot stop, if you're a district judge, you can't stop nationwide what the president is doing. You just don't have the authority to do that. And that is a very important thing to get straightened out.
Well,
I'm glad that there's some consistency there.
Yeah, and their point, and the whole point is they're supposed to rule on the law and the precedent and all that, and they're not to, put their feelings into it, which is what Ketanji Brown Jackson apparently did. This is what she wrote, just real quick. She accused her colleagues of a, quote, demonstrated enthusiasm for greenlighting this president's legally dubious actions in an emergency posture. Jackson warned of enormous real-world consequences. This executive action promises mass employee terminations, widespread cancellation of federal programs and services, and the dismantling of much of the federal government as Congress has created it. Well, all that be that as it may, this is about the law and the precedent in the Constitution.
Absolutely, it is, and again, you cannot have lower court judges, mucking this stuff up. You just can't, and I'm so glad to see them do this. And by the way, speaking of Supreme Court, now that their term is over, I would not be surprised if there were a vacancy on the High Court. The one that comes to mind is Clarence Thomas. He's way up there.
Yeah.
And if you're gonna do it, if you're a conservative on the High Court, you definitely want to step down and have your replacement picked by a Republican president. And so maybe he's got another year or two in him. Maybe he's just, I've gotten the impression he's ready to go at some time, but he was waiting for the right moment. So again, this is the time of year where if you're going to have an announcement like that, it will happen about now.
Yeah, and I would agree. And you want to probably do it before the midterm elections, I would think, right?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
So, all right. 7:15. Brian, I'm going to get your opinion on Epstein coming up next. It is 7:15. Time to shake the roads on WTN. Your weather for today, a high of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. So, Brian, I'm going to be honest. I was going to put the whole Epstein thing away, and then the president said this during a cabinet meeting yesterday.
Yeah, sure. If
Could I just interrupt for 1 second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein? This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy, this creep? That is unbelievable.
Well, I mean, the truth of the matter is, and the president knows this, yes, people are talking about Epstein. And people know my opinion on it. You go ahead, Brian, and tell me what you think.
Look, I mean, Jeffrey Epstein, here's the thing. You keep hearing everybody who looks into it, you're talking about people like Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi have all looked into it, and they're all coming back. Now, these are people that, I know one of them personally. The other two I have some respect for. And they're saying there's no there. And I think this is what happens maybe sometimes. I'm just throwing this out. That when you get out over your skis, in other words, Pam Bondi got everybody's hopes up when she says, yes, it's on my desk now. Now, she was asked about the list, but she says she was talking about the entire file was there and that she was looking at the file and trying to determine what could be released. And the expectation was it would be released. And then it's not. Well, people are very skeptical about the whole Epstein thing to begin with, but maybe it's that when you started talking about a list, people just assumed, yeah, there's a list, but maybe there was never a list. Maybe it was just misspoken of, a client list. Where did that come from? Who originally said there was a client list? I can't get that piece of information locked down. So I don't know. I mean, I think always transparency is the better way to go. But maybe they just, everybody, they got with a little of enthusiasm. Yeah, we got this whole thing. You wouldn't believe the stuff that's in it. And we're saying, okay, we'll release it. And then they decide not to do it. It certainly disappoints a lot of people. I'm disappointed. I want to know. We're big enough to figure it out. Release it and let the chips fall where it may, is my opinion.
I think bottom line is, I'm not going to belabor the point, but you had Bongino, you had Kash Patel, you certainly had Pam Bondi. Even before they joined the Trump administration, they talked about this. They were talking big on all the talk shows, Epstein. And then when they finally get into a position of power, one of two things happen. Either they realize that, as you said, they got over their skis, or there's some sort of a cover-up going on. So, I mean, at some point, we'll have to wait and see what happens. But, for me, I think the whole thing just, it does stink to high heaven one way or another. And the base is really disappointed. And I think
there's no doubt about that. People are upset about this. And I think they're going to have to reconsider this whole matter. I think it will get reconsidered. I think that we will see more releases. Will they release everything? I don't know. But, I mean, this doesn't make sense, Dan. When you look at why in the world would they say, oh, we're going to release it, we're not going to release it.
Right.
Well, the question that comes to my mind is, well, they found something, and I want to know what it is. So, it is sort of a problem of their own making, since they talked about it so big, and now they have decided not to release it. It's always going to raise questions. And if you have an administration which is committed to transparency, which this one has been, then let the transparency continue here. We're all big enough to read those files and look at them.
All right, real quick. The FBI is now investigating James Comey and John Brennan. I am thrilled. I'm elated with this. However, I just wonder how much of this is going to be for show, and will we actually see John Brennan and James Comey behind bars?
Man, I'm telling you, if there ever was a dirty political trick, it was the one that was carried out by the intelligence community and the Hillary Clinton campaign.
Yep.
The Russian dossier was never real, and the FBI knew within relatively short order that there was no there. But they kept it alive and kept making it a noise and kept, suggesting that it was an open investigation, which hurt Trump in a big way. So I just I think I'm glad to see Brennan and Comey squirming. I hope we can get something out of it. But what they did was reprehensible. It truly was.
Well, I've always said that the first couple of years of Donald Trump's first administration is almost like they stole the election in the sense that Trump, as you know, you were there talking about it, wrapped up in all of these investigations. And so the president couldn't really do the things that he wanted to do because there was always that cloud of the Mueller investigation. All right, last one. The flooding in Texas, the horrible, horrible flooding,
Dan,
and the coverage from the media.
It just breaks my heart. I spent some time in Texas growing up, and of course, I was in West Texas, where they had, by the way, in my own hometown of Odessa, they had flooding. Not to the level we saw in Central Texas, but I mean, there were parts of the town in Odessa Midland that were flooded. Same has happened in San Angelo, and of course down in the Texas Hill Country. Tragic thing that is happening there, and what really hacks me off is the attempt almost immediately by the mainstream media to try to say, well, this is all because of budget cuts, which is nonsense. There were more people on duty than were supposed to be on duty at that weather station. This was at 4 o'clock in the morning. It rose 30 feet in an hour, and it's pitch black outside. We have systems in place to warn people about tornadoes, but we really don't have similar systems in place to warn people about flash flooding. And when it happens at 4 o'clock in the morning, it pitch dark, and it wasn't even a moon out. And the timing could not have been worse. The Weather Service did everything it was supposed to do. And any suggestion that this has something to do with Trump budget cuts is completely and absolutely out of line. And they know it, but they just can't help themselves. The Democrats keep raising anything that happens that's bad, they're going to lay at the foot of Donald Trump if they can. But this one is just absolute. Well, you know how I feel about these things. It's absolute.
Yes, you do. Bovine scatology, BS, whatever you want to say it. And Brian will leave it there. Great analysis as always.
Yep. Thank you. And thanks to the Wellness Institute of Nashville for letting us do this.
It's absolutely right. And thank you, Brian. We'll talk again soon. It is 7:23 on Nashville's Morning News. Yes, the Wellness Institute of Nashville does sponsor these segments, and they're always great. And we, again, enjoy visiting with Brian every single week. It is 7:23 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. The Super Text line is open at 615-737-9986. 615-737-WWTN. Got a lot more straight ahead. $7:23 on WTN. Listen, friends, it is summertime, and you don't want to be sidelined with chronic back, neck, or knee pain. If you are, you've got to listen to me, because the Wellness Institute of Nashville, they can help you like they helped me many years ago. I was sidelined for a long time with chronic back pain, lower back pain, and they fixed me right up. And again, they can do the same thing for you. And this month at a great price. Listen to this. The July special, $12. Seriously. For a comprehensive exam, x-rays if needed, a well-explained diagnosis, and your first treatment, again, for only $12. That is the July special. So if you have back and neck pain, sciatica, slipped bulging spinal discs, herniated discs, spinal stenosis, numbness or weakness in the arms and legs, fingers or toes, the Wellness Institute of Nashville, yes, they can help you with their state-of-the-art non-surgical spinal decompression. They can help you. No surgery, no spinal injections, and no painkillers. It is the July special, $12 for that comprehensive exam, x-rays if needed, well-explained diagnosis, and that first treatment. Call them. Tell them Dan told you to reach out at 615-246-5009, 615-246-5009. Painisbad.com. That's painisbad.com. 615-246-5009.
Good morning. It's 7:30, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. New numbers from the Texas flash floods. Here's ABC's Lionel Moisey.
At least 173 people now unaccounted for. At least 110 deaths are confirmed, many of them children. 27 girls and counselors were killed at Camp Mystic along the Guadalupe River. 5 campers and a counselor still missing.
And a K-9 search team based in Memphis is in Kerr County now. They're helping with the rescue operations there. The expert handlers and specialized search dogs will reportedly search for human remains in the devastation over the next 2 weeks. Well, the money has dried up, and now parents in Sumner County have to purchase their own school supplies. For the past few years, the schools have used pandemic money to purchase backpacks, pencils, and notebooks for all elementary and middle schoolers.
Oh, it's been so nice not having to pick out colors and folder characters, and it's been amazing.
Not too early to shop. Amazon Prime, Walmart, and Target all have deals for early bird shoppers right now. 2 members of the Putnam County Young Democrats have a court date scheduled for next month. Trenton Strode and Aaron Kofer were charged for disrupting the Putnam County Commission meeting last week. Strode denies rushing the stage in a threatening manner. He spoke to Channel 4.
Instead, I was intercepted by a Putnam County Sheriff's officer who deemed that I was a threat.
The pair were there to challenge the county's involvement with ICE operations to remove illegal immigrants. Moments ago, a third member of the Tennessee State House announced a bid for the new spot in Washington, D.C. Congresswoman Representative Afton Bain, who is a representative of the Tennessee House Representative 51st District, announced today her intention to run for the 7th district seat left open following Congressman Mark Green's retirement. That is the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Take a Jones, 732, Nashville's Morning News. Listen, if you are over 40 and you're a guy and you're running low on energy, maybe you're just feeling off. LowTCenter.com is where you need to go. Get started with testosterone replacement therapy, or TRT, and join lots of guys who are going through the same thing as you. That low energy, you're just feeling off. The Low T Center can help you. Now, you know that they've got clinics all over Nashville. They are really easy to get to. You walk in, you see a real medical provider, and you get that energy back. No complicated process, just results. And remember, these treatment plans, they are tailor-made just for you. Now, you can get treatments at the clinic, or you can be treated at home. But either way, you're always going to get the highest quality of care. And right now, you can get a free consultation. And if you qualify, treatment is covered by most major medical insurance. So reclaim that energy and become you again. By the way, they can also help with prescription weight loss options as well. So head on over to the Low T Center. It's lowtcenter.com and book your appointment today. That's lowtcenter.com. Simple, quick, and totally worth it. Dan Matt is here from my friends at Window Nation. Now, listen, this is my window company. They have put 4 windows in my home, including a couple in my basement studio. They look phenomenal. If you are thinking about new windows for your home, you've got to check out my window company, Window Nation. It is really hot. Make sure that cool air is staying in and the hot air is staying out with Window Nation. Now, these are some of the best energy-saving windows out there, and they can be installed in a day or less with Window Nation. Their crews have years of experience, and if you want to increase the value of your home, call Window Nation. And right now, they've got a great deal going on just for listeners to my show. Save 50% off all window styles. That's 50% off all window styles, and you can save big time with 0% interest for 5 years. That's right, no interest until 2030. Now, this sale is going to end soon, so call today, 866-90-NATION, 866-90-NATION for Window Nation. That's 866-90-NATION, and schedule a fast, free estimate right now. And don't forget that great deal. Save 50% off all window styles, big savings, and you can also save big time with 0% interest for 5 years. No interest until 2030. Call them, tell them Dan told you to reach out, 866-90-NATION, 866-90-NATION, windownation.com.
Nashboro Village on Bell Road, north of Smith Springs Road. They've been working a crash for quite a while this morning in that location. Nashville at Lebanon Pike and Spence Lane. The traffic lights are out there. Be careful. And in Brentwood, you're still running into some road work along Concord Road westbound just past Green Hills Boulevard. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
.737, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Breaking news, Joan?
Yes.
Apparently, Afton Bain has announced that she is running for the 7th.
Yes.
That's exciting. So you're telling me that WSMV and News 2 both have this as like breaking news?
Breaking news this morning.
Now, did you get my text?
I did.
So, and I don't know, but I had State Representative Jody Barrett and Lee Reeves both announced on this show yesterday and the day before. Was that breaking news on SMV and News Channel 2?
I don't think it was. Nope.
So only the lunatic fringe on the left, Afton Bain, announcing she is running for Mark Green's seat, and they consider that breaking news, but not Lee Reeves and Jody Barrett, Republicans.
That's right.
I want to make sure that everybody understands the distinction of what's happening.
Yes. Right. You got it.
Thank you, Joan. I can explain it one more time, but I think that would be a little...
Dan, do you just want your name in the article as well because they announced it on your show?
That would have been nice, actually, KGB. Yes, that would have been nice.
Why didn't Afton come to you, Dan? I wonder. I mean...
Oh, I think she knows better.
He just wants to be included.
You know what? When it comes to Afton Bain, listen, if she wants to come on, and you know, we can do a getting to know you, although I think we all know Afton Bain. And she's free to come on if she wants. I mean, we've asked these people before, you know, people on the left, and they just, you know, mysteriously they can't find our phone number.
I probably would use more Bane Batman jokes more than I would like to. I would have to hold myself from not using too many Bane jokes.
Well, here's the thing. Again, if she wants to come on, or there's another one on the left that has also announced, I forget who it was, but... Was that John?
I just think it's funny that we know everyone, and then there's one person on the left that has no news whatsoever about them. They're like, talk about what he'd be included.
No, it's somebody, I just can't remember who it was. Again, it's somebody on the left, and she announced that she was running for either the 6th or the 7th. Don't know. I think, is it the one? Who did Matt Murphy kick out of the studio? It was her.
Wait, what?
I don't want to get into you. Yeah, Matt Murphy kicked somebody out of the studio, and
was this before me and Joan?
It was before you. I don't know about if it was. Were you there, Joan, when Murphy's show kicked out a state representative, or was she a Metro Council member?
I don't think so.
Oh gosh, the super text line is going to have to help me out here. Who is the one that Matt Murphy kicked out?
You're going to have to tell me the story off air because I need to hear this.
Oh, it was epic.
I mean, it was.
I forget even what the whole thing was about. You know Murphy, right?
Oh, yeah, no. The fact that you kick someone out, that's another level, though. You got to tell me the story.
Yeah.
We'll do it off air, though. But I need to hear it, though.
Yeah, but I'm trying to figure out who the woman was now that got kicked out. Somebody's got to know. I'm on my phone, and I'm on the super text line. I'm waiting for the delay to catch up.
Yeah, it does take a second.
Heidi Campbell.
That must have been way before us.
Murphy Show kicked her out of the studio. I think she's announced that she's running too. So,
why did he kick her out though?
There was a disagreement over the school vouchers conversation.
Oh, okay,
if I remember right.
Mm-hmm.
And he brought her in and he tried to have a dialogue with her, and it didn't go well. And I don't remember the actual reason or the disagreement as to why the kick out happened, but I think it had something to do with, I'm remembering back, it had something to do with the fact that she was against the scholarship program, but she sent her kids to a private school. I think that's what it was.
So it was like hypocritical thing?
Well, yeah, it's just pure hypocrisy.
And he kept pushing probably, and she kept pushing.
Yeah,
do you know
whatever.
was it like a year ago or a couple years ago?
I don't know, man.
Were we streaming?
You're asking
because
me
I can
this.
find
I don't
it.
know. Yeah, it's on YouTube.
It has to be.
It's on YouTube.
This.
Yeah.
If someone can go back, God bless you, and try to find this.
No, all you got to do, I don't want to belabor the point. All you got to do is go to Google and Google Matt Murphy, Heidi Campbell, and it's there. I guarantee you. Because Joan, he got thousands and thousands of people as she was kicked out of the studio.
That's funny.
And I remember when
Tennessee Star made a story about it.
Well, yeah, there's a lot of stories made about it.
So it was in February, which was like a month before I joined.
Yeah, and so when Matt, I'll never forget. And again, I don't want to belabor the point, but apparently I'm going to. I'll never forget when he said something like, "Well, you can leave then." And she's like, "Wait, what?" And she looks at Belle, who is in the studio, in the other studio, and yeah, bye. And it was just like this awkward silence.
Sally,
and she grabbed her coat and she left.
Sally says that it was Heidi Campbell, and Matt didn't kick her out. She said, "I'm not going to sit here and be called a liar." And Matt said, "Well, you can leave because I'm not going to stop calling you a liar."
Okay, yeah.
And then she
whatever. Yeah, very funny. I mean, it was.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought it was funny, but I may be the only one because I love moments like that. It's a little awkward, but whatever. Anyway, moving right along.
Makes for lovely radio.
So, but she has announced as well. Is she announcing that she's running for the
Heidi Campbell?
Yeah.
Or
what a great troll job if Matt Murphy endorsed her just as a troll.
That would be funny, actually.
Matt, if you're listening, endorse her publicly on your show today.
Oh yeah, do more damage than good. I don't know. All right, moving right along.
I don't have her as.
Oh, maybe all that. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not Heidi Campbell. Maybe it's somebody else.
I don't think she's thrown her hat into anything.
Oh, that's disappointing.
Certainly not the Truth Tellers Club. All right, moving right along. Hey, can I real quickly?
Yeah.
We were talking about what do I want to do? Because I don't have a lot of time. Devin Nunes. We all know Devin Nunes, right? Former congressman, and he was the head of the House Intelligence Committee when you had James Comey, you had John Brennan, and they were conjuring up the dirty dossier, and Hillary Clinton paid for it. We've been talking about this all morning long. And so he was on Fox News yesterday, and I loved what he had to say about John Brennan and James Comey now being investigated, criminal charges perhaps at some point as they were, again, doing all that they were doing with the dirty dossier and making this whole thing up, leaking it to the media. And then, of course, we got the Mueller investigation. Devin Nunes had what I thought was some really good comments on that whole thing. He, again, was on Fox News with Maria Bartiromo as this news broke yesterday.
And I'm going to be fascinated to see what this new information is that they found buried somewhere within that Hoover building, because I do think that transparency is key. And, now that we have, Ed Martin, who was supposed to be the U.S. Attorney in Washington, D.C., now the president has appointed him to go after this. So I think both Cash and Dan were pretty clear. They're going to follow the facts. They're going to provide transparency. And then ultimately it's up to the Department of Justice to hold these dirty cops responsible for what they've drugged this country through for the last almost decade now.
I mean, that's absolutely right. James Comey and John Brennan, and as I have said often, they stole the first 2 years of Donald Trump's first administration.
They framed General Flynn, they framed the entire Trump administration, and then they appointed Mueller. So once Trump fired Comey, Mueller gets appointed, and then we lived through that Mueller witch hunt for years. And I think, me personally, I think if you're going to find criminality, it's going to be with Mueller and his witch hunters that were there for so many years. I think that's where you're going to find the corruption. So it wasn't just I said this many times, Maria, and I think it was lost on people. It wasn't just about all the corruption that they did to create and manufacture the Russia hoax. The Mueller investigation itself was a hoax and was illegal. When Mueller walked into that door, how many times did I say it? He said, "Where are the Russians?" "Oh, sir, there are none." Why didn't Mueller leave? Right. Why did all those people work for years? Why did they hide the information from Congress for so many years?
I mean, Devin Nunes, he is absolutely spot on. All right, so Joe and I got a lot to clean up. So apparently Heidi Campbell is not running for anything.
She's not.
No.
Go ahead.
Bo Mitchell is running for Mark Green's seat as well.
Yes.
I don't know where I got Heidi Campbell from. I have no idea where that got into my head that she was running for anything. But Afton Bain is, as we have now breathlessly reported in the local media, breathlessly reporting that Afton Bain, breaking news, is running for the 7th, even though it was not considered breaking news when all these other Republicans, whether it was on Murphy's show or my show, made their announcements.
Also, just for the record, if you're on YouTube or any of the streaming platforms, I posted the link to the Matt Murphy, Heidi Campbell little walkout there.
Okay.
So in case anyone wanted to find it, it's on any streaming platform. I posted the link to it.
All right.
After the show, watch it.
All right. It is 7:45. Time to check the roads on WTN. (7:47) Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. As far as your weather goes, a high today of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. And hot and sticky is what we keep saying as far as the weather pattern that we are in. All right, real quick, I want to play this audio bite from Pete Hegseth, of course. He is talking about China, and he's talking about foreign entities owning land here in America.
I want to know who owns the land around our bases and strategic bases, and getting an understanding of why foreign entities, foreign companies, foreign individuals might be buying up land around those bases. That's something I should be paying attention to on behalf of the American people, on behalf of my department, and on behalf of the president. It's common sense. And so food security, just like energy resilience, just like where we get our water, that's all national security, especially in a contingency. So we would be asleep at the wheel if we were not fully a party to an effort like this to ensure that our nation had the food supply it needs. But specifically, our troops have what they need on our bases so that in those moments you can rely on us here in the United States to provide that security. So no longer can foreign adversaries assume we're not watching and we're not paying attention and we're not doing something about it, because we are. So, Brooke, thank you very much.
So that is, again, Pete Hegseth. Well, it's China. It's always been China. It's always going to be China. And they have been allowed to buy up a whole bunch of farmland. And as you know, if you listen to WTN, we talk about this stuff all the time. They're buying farmland around our military bases. Do you know who was calling sounding the alarm on this for many years before this actually became more well-known? Was one Dustin Kittle, who has been on this show many times, and, well, I'll say several times. He's going to be on at 8 o'clock. He was, again, one of the original whistleblowers where he was saying, and by the way, this goes really deep, and so it is a fascinating tale of how China very insidiously has been able to buy farmland in America and specifically around our military bases. We'll talk to Dustin Kittle coming up at 7:50 on, I should say, 8:06 on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. It is now 7:50. I've got Afton Bain on the brain. That's what it is, Joan.
How sad is that?
That's a bad thing to have on your brain is some Afton Bain. All right, moving on. Joan, what's coming up?
Well, we have an update here on the second man who is charged with attempting to assassinate President Trump. There's an update in that story to tell you about coming up here at 8 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Summertime is here, so if you're thinking about selling your home, now is the time. With Mark Spain Real Estate and their guaranteed offer, you can sell your home quickly and for maximum value. Now, you can make the most of your summer here in July by selling your home with the guaranteed offer from Mark Spain Real Estate. You can skip all the hassles of a traditional home sale and sell your home quickly without the stress of showings, open houses, or costly repairs. Mark Spain Real Estate's guaranteed all-cash offer allows you to sell your home in as little as 21 days and move when you're ready. Now, listener Lori said, Mark Spain Real Estate, they were great. They had our house sold within 3 days and kept us informed of everything that was happening. Mark Spain Real Estate, they were wonderful to work with, and she says, I would recommend them to anyone looking to sell. They've got over 13,000 five-star reviews, and you can trust the top real estate team in America to sell your home stress-free and for the most money. It's Mark Spain and the guaranteed offer. Call them, tell them Dan told you to reach out, 855-299-SOLD. 855-299-SOLD. Go to markspain.com to get a guaranteed offer on your home today. That's markspain.com and start packing. $7:55, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. I don't know if these are new numbers, Joan, or not. CNN is reporting this as breaking news. They're saying in Texas, 111 dead now,
Yes.
111 dead, 170 plus missing.
Yep.
So the news goes from bad to worse.
That was the update provided by Greg Abbott yesterday.
Okay.
To the press, yeah.
So have you heard about Austin's fire chief?
No.
Guy by the name of Joel Baker.
Okay.
And his big priority now, with much excitement, he was Austin's first black fire chief, and his big thing, Joel Baker, was he wanted to hire more black and LGBTQ firefighters. Well, now Joel Baker is facing a vote of confidence. Ask me why. Because he is being blasted by the union for denying the pre-deployment of resources to Caryville, citing budget concerns.
What?
So, and Charlie Kirk points out, the only problem, the Austin Fire Department is fully reimbursed by the state of Texas for these deployments. Now, the Austin Firefighter Special Operations teams, they are specially trained for Hill Country swift water rescue. They are some of the best, if not the best, swift water boat teams in the state of Texas. And he said, no, we don't have the budget for this. That's number one. And number two, as Charlie Kirk reports, that they're paid back. Austin is paid back by the state for these kind of deployments. So now the Austin Firefighters Association ripping this guy Joel Baker's decision. Why would Fire Chief Joel G. Baker do this, you may ask? It was a misguided attempt to save money. I say misguided because the fire department is fully reimbursed by the state to deploy. I explained the reimbursement process to Chief Baker last week, and he failed to understand this very simple concept. Austin, they say, and this is Charlie Kirk, Austin says that Austin hired, the town, hired a DEI fire chief who could have saved an untold number of lives, but he was unable to comprehend the simple concept of reimbursement. DEI likely killed those little girls.
Oh, my gosh. That's a horrifying story.
111 dead, 170 plus missing, and the much heralded Austin's first, black fire chief. And whether or not, I don't ascribe to know what it is, his motivation for not approving the, the swift water rescue teams to go to Caryville. I don't know if it's because he didn't understand the simple concept of reimbursement, or if there were other reasons, like he just has no common sense. And it's always easy to, look in the rearview mirror and say, well, you made the wrong decision there. I don't know why he didn't do it, but it certainly seems like he's an idiot. I mean, again, I don't know if it's because he didn't understand the concept of reimbursement. I will say that clearly their priorities are in the wrong place. If this, as some would say, a DEI hire, Austin Fire Chief Joel Baker, their first black fire chief, who has been working really hard to hire more black and LGBTQ firefighters. Perhaps he was too worried about that and not worried enough about getting the swift water rescue teams to the Hill Country. Maybe that's what the problem is. I don't know. But I have always said, do you know I've always said this, Joan? I mean, I can go back to my days in Colorado Springs and Fort Wayne, Indiana, where I said at the time it was called political correctness. Yeah. Political correctness is going to kill people. It is literally going to kill people. And now here, and I don't want to go through the whole journey, and now here we are in 2025, and we do have DEI and woke, and yes, it is resulting in the deaths of Americans all across the country. It is incredibly sad, and I wonder if this guy will be fired, or if it would be racist to fire him for making a decision that led to the deaths
How about
of
criminal
many people.
charges?
Or
I think criminal charges are actually what's called for here.
Criminal negligence, Joan.
Absolutely.
Maybe that's something that they should look at. But Joan, the wokesters out there, the Democrats, the left, would call that racist.
Yeah.
It's 8 o'clock on Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Good morning. Now 8 o'clock, and I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. As President Trump continues to lose patience with Putin, the Russian leader is continuing to step up his pressure on Ukraine just this morning.
Russia launching its largest aerial assault on Ukraine since the start of the war. Ukrainian officials say over 700 drones were launched, but most were shot down or intercepted. It comes as the Trump administration is now preparing to resume U.S. weapons shipments to Ukraine, as the president grows increasingly frustrated with Vladimir Putin.
ABC's Rachel Scott there. Got an update on that second man accused of attempted assassination of President Trump. CBS News is reporting that 2 people have now been charged by the DOJ with selling a rifle to Ryan Ralph. Their names are Tina Cooper and Ronnie Oxendine, and they're accused of selling Ralph a Chinese-made SKS rifle for $450. That was apparently that rifle that Ralph pointed through the bushes at Trump's golf course 6 weeks later. Ralph, by the way, was not allowed to own a firearm because he had a criminal conviction. Afton Bain wants a new job. The Democrat state rep has announced she'll run for the 7th congressional district seat left open by the retirement of Congressman Mark Green. State reps Jody Barrett and Bo Mitchell are also making a bid for that seat. Barnard College has settled a lawsuit that accused the school of not doing enough to keep Jewish students safe. The all-women's affiliate of Columbia University has agreed to ban masks at protests and to refuse to meet or negotiate with a coalition of pro-Palestinian student groups. Students and staff will also be schooled on a zero-tolerance policy for Jewish and Israeli students. In Philadelphia, the heat and the rotting trash is making the city of brotherly love unbearable.
The smell is just very terrible.
A strike with unionized trash collectors, however, is now over.
This has been going on. The strike lasted for 9 days. They were initially in negotiations over the course of 12 hours before they came to this deal. So once again, it's 3 years, a 9% raise over the course of that 3 years.
ABC's Corey Davis there, but that final deal falls short of the union demands. Well, it may be time to take charge of your kids' eating habits.
Concerning data from the CDC shows 1 in 3 teenagers now has prediabetes. With prediabetes, blood sugar levels are high, but not high enough to be considered type 2 diabetes, which is linked to heart disease and other conditions. Health experts say kids need to eat healthier and be more active.
ABC's Alan Kosick. Market numbers now brought to you by Beacon Capital Management online at beaconcm.com. Investors are apparently encouraged about news that President Trump will have some new tariff trade deals to talk about this morning. So the Dow futures are plus 159 right now. NASDAQ futures gaining 49. S&P futures are plus 16 points. That is the latest news. Traffic and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News. You've got a crash in Nashboro Village, Bell Road, north of Smith Springs Road. Been working on that one for quite a while this morning. At Public Square, James Robertson Parkway, the westbound side at 2nd Avenue North, there's some maintenance work going on there, and traffic is backed up around it. There's also road work in Brentwood on Concord Road, westbound past Green Hills Boulevard, and one lane is open to traffic. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
8:06, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Good morning to you. It is Wednesday, July 9th, and there is a lot going on. I want to welcome on into the program. He is an attorney. He is a farmer. He is Dustin Kittle. And Dustin, you've been on the radio program before. And I heard Pete Hegseth, and he had a lot of things to say about China and their buying of a bunch of farmland, of course, here in the United States. And I want to get into not only what Pete said, but also what it means, not only for the state of Tennessee, but also, of course, for farmers and our military across America. Because I think that there's a lot here, and it goes pretty deep. And so I'm going to play this audio for you. This is Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth.
I want to know who owns the land around our bases and strategic bases, and getting an understanding of why foreign entities, foreign companies, foreign individuals might be buying up land around those bases. That's something I should be paying attention to on behalf of the American people, on behalf of my department, and on behalf of the president. It's common sense. And so food security, just like energy resilience, just like where we get our water, that's all national security, especially in a contingency. So we would be asleep at the wheel if we were not fully a party to an effort like this to ensure that our nation had the food supply it needs. But specifically, our troops have what they need on our bases so that in those moments you can rely on us here in the United States to provide that security. So no longer can foreign adversaries assume we're not watching and we're not paying attention and we're not doing something about it, because we are. So, Brooke, thank you very much.
So it seems like, Dustin, there's a couple of different things going on here. Number one is China buying farmland just, as part of our own issues with food security, as Pete Hegseth says, but also around military bases. So let's talk a little bit about this. You were one of the first ones that was sort of a whistleblower when you saw that China and entities related to China were buying up farmland in America.
Yes, that's right, and I appreciate you having me on, Dan. If you go back and look over the last 25 years, China specifically went from owning 10,000 acres of American farmland to now they own, by even the most conservative estimates, 300,000 acres. And the truth of the matter is we don't know how much land China owns in the United States, because the program that was implemented, which is a FIDA, it's a Foreign Investment Disclosure Act, allows for voluntary reporting. And so you can imagine that there is a lot of reporting that has not went on through the years. And again, the 300,000 acres that we know these Chinese investors own, that's just what has been brought above table that they have voluntarily reported. But we're finding out all the time that there are more acres that are owned. And to Secretary of Defense's point there, a lot of this came up about 5 years ago, and it was from a whistleblower at an Air Force base out of North Dakota. And they said there are Chinese investors who have purchased land that are essentially within vision of the entire base, and they are monitoring airflow in and out. And at that particular base, that is where we were developing some of the latest technologies as far as unmanned aircrafts and drones. And as everyone has seen over the course of the last year, that is the future of military action, is using unmanned aircrafts and drones. And here we had Chinese entities that were within, literally hundreds of yards of being able to see into that military site. And I'll expand on that just a little bit further. We now have found out over the last 5 years, there are 19 other strategic military sites where Chinese investors, foreign investors, have come in and have bought really what is unusable farmland. It's classified as other, which means it's full of rock. It's not typically been farmed in the past, but they're buying it as farmland around these strategic military sites. And, I appreciate the fact that this administration is speaking up on it. It's the first time that really we've had someone at the federal level that has taken this issue on.
It's crazy because, has anybody asked at the time, and I understand Trump is doing this now, but like you said, in the last 5 years, anybody in the Biden administration ask, okay, so what does China want with this unusable land around military bases. I mean, nobody's asking questions until now.
No, and the reality is that our own government, and I think the Trump administration is getting up to speed. And I'll go back to Trump's first administration and say that there were a lot of things that I think flew under the radar. This included that administration did not have a clue about. When you look, though, at the Obama presidency is really where it started. We put Terry Branstad in a position, former Iowa governor, as the ambassador to China. And within a matter of 3 years into Obama's administration, you had Smithfield Pork bought out by Chinese investors. And you're talking about a company that provides 1/8 of the pork across the entire world. And what came with that was 100,000 acres of farmland. And if you look at those years during Obama and the Biden administration, one of the ways that they were doing this was they were using the United States Farm Credit System, which if you go back to 1997, the Farm Credit Administration went to Congress, got approval to start making loans to foreign investors, something that absolutely should have never been done. It's a government-sponsored enterprise. It's a non-profit entity that has tax exemptions, and the American taxpayer has financed foreign investment into our farmland. All of that has went on strategically. You go to the Obama administration, the Biden administration, they've left the board of the Farm Credit System open and vacant so that there was no oversight. And during that period of time, you just look from roughly 2010 to where we are now, there's been a 250% increase on foreign investment into American farmland.
Is part of what's happening, and you may have said this, but is part of what's happening is you have American entities that are accepting Chinese investment, and so you can't really tell who the investors are in these American entities, but then you drill down and they're Chinese investors. Is that also going on?
That's a huge part of it. And you go back to that AFITA Act, and that was an act that was brought forth by Chuck Grassley out of Iowa, who has been very pro-farmer in his tenure. And I think the AFITA Act was created with good intentions. The problem was there was no teeth to it. And again, you had voluntary reporting, and really the only individual you had to disclose was who was the filing party, who was the name that was on the deed. It didn't go any further than that. And in fact, we found out that there were AFITA documents filed by individuals who we thought, well, this is just a random foreign investor, that you go back and look, and the money that they received to purchase that farmland actually came from the Chinese Communist Party. And, those are shocking facts that we have allowed this to happen completely unchecked. But again, with that AFITA program, it's voluntary reporting to truly know how much farmland we've lost and what we're looking at right now. You'd have to go to every courthouse in the United States and check deeds on it. Because again, we're relying on paper systems. One of the things that Secretary of Ag Brooke Rollins mentioned the other day, and I'll say I'm not a huge fan of Brooke Rollins. I think she sides with big ag more so than the independent farmers. But one of the things she's taken on is we're going to finally make this database online, and we're going to make it public so people could see it. We're in the year 2025, and these forms are being filled out on paper and are not even being documented digitally. So there's no way to cross-check it. There's no way for the average person to look into it. And there's no checks and balances for, basically ensuring that our government has our best interest at heart.
All right, so I have to jump the traffic, but real quick, I'm going to ask you to answer this question coming back from traffic. So this is all literally on pieces of paper, and so it seems relatively untraceable, untrackable. Is that done on purpose by our federal government? It's 8:15. Time to check the roads on WTN. Today, high of 90, scattered thunderstorms as well. Appreciate you listening to Nashville's Morning News. Justin Kittle, attorney and farmer, joining us talking about the Chinese owning a bunch of farmland across America, particularly around military bases. And you say this is, it's all done on paper, so you can't trace it. Is that done on purpose so that people can't figure out what's going on?
It almost has to be. And you go back there, probably 10 to 15 years ago, a report came out essentially saying we don't have a clue how much farmland is being purchased by foreign agents. And, what I would say is at that time they came forward and said, we have to find a way to make this digital so that we can look at it. And here we are, we're 15 years later, and we still have not created that digital database. And this is what I would say with Brooke Rollins. I appreciate the soundbite. I appreciate the deterrence of bringing this forward, but we've got to hold her accountable in this. It's one thing to win the press conference, especially on the heels of some of her statements as far as giving amnesty to agricultural immigrants, and which caused a lot of backlash. And, she's come back immediately with this American Farmland Protection Act, which is great. It's my understanding it's going to be turned into an executive order by President Trump, but we've got to hold them accountable. We've heard these words before. We have to be sure that we are protecting, we have a watch as far as foreign investment coming in, because a buzzword you're going to hear over the next 5 years is agri-terrorism. There have been, the FBI has investigated in just the last 2 years over 100 cases of where individuals have come into this country with bad intentions as far as agri-terrorism, and I'm talking about funguses that they have brought into this country that could go into crops and eliminate them. And so, this is broader than just an issue of being sure that our citizens have access to this farmland. It's a true national security issue.
We had that, I think it was Boston, where we had a couple of people come in from China, and they had some sort of a fungus. And that's where I believe it was the first time that I used that term, agri-terrorism. So let me ask you, Dustin, as we wrap this up, is there anything we can do to take back or buy back somehow this property that China owns around our military bases?
So the answer to that would be yes. And one of the states that's working on that is Missouri. And I really think it's going to need to come from the state level. If you look at the press conference that Brooke Rollins did the other day, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee was there. The state of Tennessee actually does have a law that's on the books, passed in 2023, that would limit foreign ownership as far as farmland. It doesn't take away past, but it prevents as far as the future. Missouri's going another step further. They're going back and clawing back some of these transactions, particularly ones where the AFITA reporting was not done. And I think that you will see other states follow suit. There has been talk that Texas may do so, and Nebraska may follow suit as well. And there probably is not a better deterrent that we could have if we did claw back some of these deals that were consummated through fraud, essentially.
It does seem like, a no-brainer. China's been on our radar for, years and years and years. And now that it's suddenly becoming an issue, now that Trump is in office and they're really paying attention to it, at least that's good. But it just seems like there's a lot of cleanup that has got to happen. One of the other questions I would have, too, is do we have a way to monitor what these folks, the people running these farms, is there a way to monitor what they're doing? Can we spy on them to see if they're spying on us?
Well, an interesting thing on that, you may remember a few years ago when the Chinese spy balloon made its travel across the United States. So, we think now that actually originated from Chinese-owned property. And, there are a lot of people saying, shoot it down. And they may have been flying over their own land during part of it. And so, yes, when it comes to national security issues, I think that we have a duty to at least make sure that what people are saying is going on this farmland is what is actually going on. There is a fine line between privacy rights for public citizens, which I'm all for, but when you cross that boundary as far as national security issues, and you have foreign investment coming in at the level that it has, and it's at strategic sites, we have to do everything we can to protect the American public, and that includes monitoring what's going on at those sites.
All right. Well, when do you think we'll start to see some real news on this, starting to take shape and the executive order and all of that? Because this is very concerning.
I think in the next 30 days, and I think that the Trump administration will realize this is a win. This is something that the American public can agree on. And, it's been detrimental to the farmers. We've lost – go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We've lost over 100 million acres of farmland over the last 20 years. However, the rate of farmland that's went to foreign interest, is up 250%. So we're going in the wrong direction here. And, again, I think it's a win for the American public as far as an issue that will be well received. And my hope is that they latch on to it and run with it, because it can be a win-win for the agricultural community as well as for the country as a whole.
All right, Dustin Kittle, how can people get more information if they've got a question for you? Is there a way to follow you on the socials?
Yes, absolutely. So if you go to X, I'm just at Dustin Kittle. I'm back on Facebook now too, and so that account is also at Dustin Kittle, and feel free to send me a message anytime if you've got any questions on anything.
Kittle. And Dustin, always appreciate the intel and the analysis, and great job. It is 8:22, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk. Joan Jones has the news coming up at 8:30. Joan.
Yeah, the Trump administration is suing the state of California. It is breaking news, and we'll bring it to you here at 8:30 on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Dan Mandis here, 8:23. Man, we've had some crazy, or dare I say, wicked storms here in the last couple of days. The weather in Middle Tennessee, it does get insane, which is why you need a backup home standby generator from my friends at the Generator Supercenter. Now, why should you buy from them? They are the nation's #1 Generac generator dealer. Now, you can get a free quote and get peace of mind when you have one installed. The Generator Supercenter does feature expert installation and 24-hour monitoring as well. The power in your neighborhood goes dark, your lights are going to be on because of your backup home standby generator from the Generator Supercenter. You can find them online, generatorsupercenterofnashville.com, 615-879-1952. Financing is available, 615-879-1952, generatorsupercenterofnashville.com. Dan Mandis here. I want to tell you about my friends at DT McCall's. This is a great Tennessee company. They are here for their fellow Tennesseans with great prices, selection, and value, and they have been for 3 generations. Now, I've been telling you for years about DT McCall's. They've been helping people out with great prices, selection, and value. Indoor furniture. If you've got a room to fill, go to DT McCall's. Of course, you know all about their lawn mowers and outdoor lawn equipment. And if you need an appliance, look, if it plugs in, they've got it. And they've always got specials going on to save you money. All you have to do is go to the front page of their website, dtmccalls.com, and you will see a lot of appliances, the best brands of appliances, washer and dryer sets, dishwashers, and a whole lot more at great prices. And again, they've been doing this for over 100 years with a focus on customer service. And at DT McCall's, if you buy it, they'll deliver it for free and haul away the old stuff. They've got 5 locations across Middle Tennessee, Carthage, Cookeville, Lebanon, Lafayette, and Franklin, always online, dtmccalls.com. 829, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. And, hey, I think we're going to have a little bit of fun with Chris Hand, Joan, coming up during the crisscross handoff.
Okay.
Do you remember this soundbite from yesterday?
Who could forget?
So I've got a Cuckoo Democrat update, and we're going to have fun with Chris Hand and you and KGB with that, because the Democrats, they are now uniting under a new narrative. Do you know what that new narrative is?
Uh-oh.
I'm going to tell you what it is.
Okay.
It's cuckoo. And it's coming up. 829, actually coming up on 8:30. Joan Jones has the news right now on WTN.
Good morning. I'm Joan Jones with your top stories. There is a crash this morning in East Nashville. It's on Ellington Parkway southbound at Cleveland Street. Just be aware of that as you're traveling this morning. The Trump administration has just announced that it's suing the state of California, the Department of Education there, and California's Interscholastic Federation over Title IX violations. The administration wants the court to stop the state from allowing males to compete in women's sports. On Monday, both of those groups sent letters to the White House denying the administration's demands. New legislation introduced in Congress yesterday would give the Department of Defense the right to repair its own military equipment. It's a policy that could save the Pentagon money and time. Right now, only defense contractors can make those repairs. The legislation is expected to be included in the upcoming National Defense Authorization Act. It approves funds and policy for the DoD. Locally, a 19-year-old Nashville man is about to undergo his 7th surgery in 2 weeks after being hit by an ambulance while crossing Murfreesboro Pike. WSMV4's Steve Mailing says a GoFundMe has been started for Travis Crutcher.
Crutcher was attempting to cross Murfreesboro Pike on June 22nd. He waited for the light to turn from green to yellow, then began to cross after one car stopped and waved him on. Crutcher claims he didn't see the ambulance coming and had his headphones in. The report says the NFD ambulance was going 45 miles an hour.
And the report says the driver of the ambulance claims Crutcher darted across the intersection right before he was hit. August is going to be a busy month for convenience store Wawa. New stores are breaking ground around here in Murfreesboro, August 12th, and Clarksville, August 13th. These will be the first Wawa locations in Tennessee. The stores currently operate in 12 states and Washington, D.C. Money News brought to you by Beacon Capital Management, online at beaconcm.com. Taking a look at stocks as they begin trading this morning. The Dow Jones up 234 points. The NASDAQ gaining 111 and the S&P 500 index plus 27. That's the latest news, traffic, and weather next. I'm Joan Jones, WTN News.
Thank you, Joan. 8:32, Dan Mandis here with a question for you. If your roof was destroyed in a storm, like the ones that we've had the last couple of days and like the ones that we're going to have in the next couple of days, how much of that replacement cost would your insurance company cover? Now, if you don't know, you really do need to ask, because some insurance companies refuse to pay full replacement cost. They're going to deduct money for an older roof, and this means that the insurance company is going to depreciate how much they pay for your roof claim. An older roof, they're going to pay you less, and that could leave you on the hook for thousands of dollars. My friends at King & Associates Insurance, they will pay full replacement cost. So whether you have to replace a 10-year-old roof or a 2-year-old roof, they will pay for it to be replaced, period. It is that kind of focus on customer service that does make King & Associates Insurance one of the best insurance companies around. Call them at 615-329-8121, 615-329-8121. Get your royal review, tkinginsurance.com. 8:30, 8:34, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7. Specialty coatings. Listen, if you are a business owner and you've got a floor that needs a lot of work, that is a reflection on your business. Specialty coatings, they can help you. They specialize in concrete floor coatings and polished concrete, and they've been doing it for 30 years. You've probably walked on some of their incredible concrete floor coatings. They've done work in all the major sports stadiums, the arenas, and the convention centers. Just last year, Specialty Coatings in Nashville installed over 1 million square feet of coatings for businesses across Tennessee. Now, those buildings include manufacturing, warehouses, airplane hangars, retail, and a lot more. Specialty Coatings is not some fly-by-night company. You know, a couple of guys show up with a bucket and a roller. They got the equipment and they've got the skilled workers, so your job is going to be on time and on budget. No matter how bad your floor looks, Specialty Coatings, they can fix it and they can help your business. And each project, by the way, is customized to your building, your needs, and your business. 615-591-9491. Tell them Dan Mandis told you to reach out. 615-591-9491. You can also email them, sales@specialtycoat.com. That's specialtycoat.com.
The accident still there in Ashboro Village at Bell Road, north of Smith Springs Road, East Nashville, Ellington Parkway, southbound lanes. There's a crash reported at Cleveland Street. At the Public Square, James Robertson Parkway westbound. It's maintenance work at 2nd Avenue North. In Donaldson, Lebanon Pike at McGavick Pike, there's an accident. And one in Brentwood as well, Old Hickory Boulevard at I-65. Traffic every 10 minutes every morning on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
Little kid art. 8:36, Nashville's Morning News on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Welcome on into the crisscross handoff.
Let's go.
And how's everybody doing? Joan's here. Oh, by the way, you know what we didn't do, doggone it, Joan?
What's that?
We did not do your screening of War the Gargantuas. Remember, we were going to talk about this on Friday. Now, I will admit to you that I failed to uphold my end of the bargain. I did not watch Princess Bride. That's my bad. That's on me.
There's always time.
Yes.
I'm really busy. But anyway, but in fairness to me, Joan did not watch the entire War of the Gargantuas. So what part, and by the way, in case you're unfamiliar, Joan and I were challenging each other on watching movies. I, of course, picked the dumbest, stupidest movie that I love,
War of the Gargantuas,
so that she would have to watch it. So what part did you watch?
So it was a scene where there was one of the gargantuans was on at the bottom at the cliff. And I think that the woman fell off the cliff and he picks her up with his big hands and he places her back on top of the cliff.
Sure, that was the brown gargantua. That was the good gargantua.
Okay, yes. He was a nice guy. But then he was hurt, I guess.
Yeah, he got hurt.
Yeah.
Because, number one, the boulder fell on his leg and it broke his leg. And then his younger brother, he got in a fight with him too. The green gargantua.
You know this way too well. But what I found funny was the woman pining for this creature. She was pining for him.
She raised him since a little tyke.
Oh, did she?
Yes.
I missed that part.
Well, had you watched the whole movie, Joan, you'd get the entire context.
Gotcha.
Joan.
For some reason, I was picturing a gargantuan in my mind as some sort of spider creature.
It's gargantua, not gargantuan.
Oh.
There is such a thing as a gargantuan spider, right?
I don't know. Is there? Maybe, maybe not.
There sure is, Joan.
But you know what I liked about
my nightmares.
Do you know what I liked about Joan? Now, Joan and I do a lot of texting back and forth. So let me see if I can pull up the text message that Joan sent me. She said something to the effect, because it was very well done. She said, Yes, here it is. We watched a bit of it. Very interesting and very revealing about you. Anyway, so there you go.
Nothing I wouldn't say to your face, Dan,
No,
right?
oh, I know.
Yeah.
Oh, and you do. And you do. All right. Anyway, so a couple of things. All right, we got to get to content. All right. So there's a new Democrat narrative, right? Do you know what the narrative is, Chris?
Tell me.
Joe,
Or
do you know what the narrative is?
What is the narrative?
Is the root of the narrative Orange Man bad?
It's going to be Orange Man will not allow any elections.
Encourage and incentivize private violence. You send the U.S. Marines into spaces they should not be. You send the National Guard in. You kidnap people off of the streets and pretend that's normal, because that's how you quiet dissent, because you make everyone afraid that if they don't do what you want, they might be next. And once you've done those 9 steps, step 10 is easy. That's when you decide there won't be new elections, because everyone's either afraid, poor, broken, or complicit.
That's, of course, Stacey Abrams.
Oh, her.
Is it just me, or when I listened to that clip the first time, I felt like she was leaning into like this fake fear kind of quiver thing.
Yeah,
in her voice.
Her
then,
voice is quivering.
And then there's no elections.
That's exactly right. Every time I hear Stacey Abrams speak, I need to wipe off my face because she's.
Well,
got that
elections
big
are
gap
only
in her
good
tooth.
if you acknowledge the
Savage.
results, Stacey Abrams.
Well, yeah, I mean, she is the ultimate election denier.
Yeah.
She's
right?
still running around as the rightful governor of Georgia.
Yeah.
She sure is. And then, of course, there is Joy Reid.
He's not acting like somebody who worries that his party will lose power. This is somebody who is behaving as an autocrat because they don't anymore believe. He said it during the election. I don't need your votes anymore. And he doesn't. I don't think Trump intends to leave office. I'm very clear about that. I think he intends to stay in office like Putin till he dies.
I went on Jim.
Yeah,
like Putin.
Wait,
Putin.
He doesn't need their votes anymore because he has one term. He can't do it again. But now they're saying he's just going to stay because that's just the Constitution doesn't exist apparently.
Yeah, he's already said he only wants to do 2 terms. You know?
And please give us more of a warning before Joy Reid. Like, give us a couple of seconds to brace ourselves.
Okay, you know what? We can have a Joy Reid warning sounder.
Oh,
we can do. I think.
Well, to go along with all of.
No, we need like a siren. We need it's like a nuclear bomb siren.
Was Joy Reid wearing her blonde wig in that clip?
Or her bald head?
Is it just me? I've noticed since the MSNBC money dried up, we've had a lot less new dues.
Yeah.
I don't know what's up with her hair. Like, is that like a crop thing that she's got going on? And it is blonde. I don't know what to say about it, but it is blonde or white or whatever that is. Is that like a dye job?
I don't know. I just haven't seen any new wigs lately.
She can't afford them anymore.
That's what I'm saying.
Okay. Anyway, so
to go along with all of that.
I don't know what to say about the
nuttery,
wigs, man. Yeah.
Afton Bain's congressional, her announcement that she's going to run for Congress. It begins with.
Is that what it begins with?
Yeah, pretty much. She starts off with she's going to rescue everybody's Medicaid because President Trump is taking away health care for millions of people. And he's doing it in order to give tax breaks to the richest people in the country.
You know, it is just so boring.
Yeah.
How many
Can't keep letting Trump get away with this.
Yes.
Afton Bain has my vote.
Isn't the richest people also supporting Democrats also? So why is he giving tax breaks to people that don't vote for him?
Well, trying to speak logic to people like Afton Bain is just impossible.
Yeah.
So, and the thing is, that's right up there with, Joe Biden. And the reason why Joe Biden decided to run for office was because Donald Trump said there were good people on both sides.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's just, okay.
Yeah, that's why. Not because he's tried before. And
Whatever you say. So, real quickly, you want to do a little Epstein? So,
let's do a little Epstein.
Let's not say we did.
Can you word that a little better?
Yeah.
Let's talk about Jeffrey Epstein.
That's what the kids are calling it.
And Donald Trump's epic mistake. Now, I played this a couple of times. Donald Trump yesterday during the cabinet meeting.
Yeah, sure. Could I just interrupt for a second? Are you still talking about Jeffrey Epstein?
Yes.
This guy's been talked about for years. You're asking, we have Texas, we have this, we have all of the things. And are people still talking about this guy?
I mean, it was amazing to me. I'm not going to play the whole clip. I think probably everybody has played it already. But it's amazing that either he knows that people are talking about it and he's trying to sort of signal to his supporters, this is not something I want to deal with, or he's completely clueless about where his base is.
Yeah.
I have a hard time believing that he's completely clueless. I think it's more of a deflection.
I think it's a deflection.
But he stepped in it with that comment.
Absolutely.
Yesterday I said, I'm done with the story. I'm done with it. I'm done. And then he did that yesterday, and I swear my head exploded. I couldn't believe that he was trying to control, or as you say, deflect the masses and trying to get them not to talk about it or ask questions because, contrary to popular opinion, we're not a cult.
No. And how do you can't ignore this one away, I don't think.
No.
How do you fix this if you're the Trump administration?
I think at this point, it's unfixable because anything that they say at this point, any excuse they make, any explanation they give, we're all going to go, yeah, we don't believe that either.
Or if they release some material, then they were lying.
Yeah, it's lose.
So they've kind of boxed themselves in.
Yeah, yep.
It's a mess.
It is an absolute mess. Now,
especially because of all the audio we have before they took power, and everybody, Kash Patel, the FBI has all this. You know,
it was on her desk.
It was on her desk.
Yeah, you can't. I mean, they spent years, and I'm just going to keep harping on this. They spent years talking tough about Epstein and how the files are there, and he just, whether we're talking about Kash Patel or Pam Bondi or Dan Bongino, I think that that's one of the big reasons why they ended up in the Trump administration, because they were talking tough on these kinds of issues, especially when it comes to Epstein. And then they get into power and it's like nothing.
As a guy who's been a radio program director, if you look at Dan Bongino and you see how he positioned his radio career over years and the stances that he took, then getting into office and doing a complete 180, is there a way for him to recover from that kind of a credibility loss with his audience?
No, we talked about, Joan, she and I talked about yesterday or whenever it was.
Like, could he go back to radio?
No, he doesn't have it. Well,
yes, he can. He's got a media empire.
Far be it from me, right? So I'm not going to get into all that. But here's what I would say, because Joan and I talked yesterday about Pam Bondi could go to Newsmax. No, she couldn't. None of them have any credibility. They don't have any credibility left. And I guarantee you, each and every one of them, especially Bongino, because he gave up a lot. And I like Dan Bongino.
I do too. I honestly
that he regrets it.
I kind of feel bad for the guy because it seems to me like he went in there with these intentions and then he got in there and somebody went, close the door.
Yeah, he went in with a certain amount of ideals.
It feels like to me like there was a moment where they said, all right, shut the door. Leave your cell phones outside. We have to have a talk.
I wonder, you know what, I think maybe Bongino could come back if he came clean. If he quit right now today and said, I can't do this. But they've already replaced him at the network. And on the guy that replaced him at the network is the afternoon guy in Washington on WMAL, and that guy's been replaced. So everybody's already in place.
Yeah.
So what do you do if you're Bongino? Now, he can go off and he can do a podcast like he did before because he's very good at what he does. So he's got to be sick that he did this.
But that core internet audience, that hardcore rabid audience that he had cultivated, I think he lost.
I think he's damaged his credibility.
I do too.
I think he's damaged his credibility.
And I don't think it's his fault. Like, I don't think he walked in there thinking, I'm going to be a stooge for this. I think that there was another angle and somebody said, we're going to do it this way.
Yeah, but he still has the ability to walk away. It's not like I'm going to say it this way, and then I'm going to play some more audio. But it's not like he needs the job, if you know what I mean. He can always fall back.
But I don't think it's a job thing. I mean, you get this high up.
Yeah,
it's like you're married, right?
No, you can quit.
Yeah,
you can quit.
But if you were going to essentially rat out what happened behind the scenes, that's the only way you could regain your credibility. And if there are implications there or threats behind the scenes,
yeah,
there's a lot more to lose.
He's got a family. And let's all be honest, our government does pretty crappy things. So
it's a long history of it.
I thought this would be interesting. Megyn Kelly actually said this.
I volunteer to do it because I am not conspiratorial, but
She wants to get everybody into a room, and she wants to interview Bongino and Kash Patel and Pam Bondi for 2 hours.
totally understand the Epstein case very well and why people have questions about it. I'll sit down with all three of them. Give me Bondi, Patel, and Bongino for 2 hours. Nothing, no holds barred. I can ask anything. And then the audience can see whether they're truth tellers. And I care about them. I don't know Pam as well, but though I know Pam, I don't dislike Pam. I really don't. We go back years at Fox News. Dan is the only one who I consider an actual personal friend. But the audience knows that, and I hope is coloring, that in on assessing my own bias on this. But this is why you have to sort of keep some distance between yourself and the administration, even when they're your friends. You have to be able to report honestly on them and to call out bullshit when you think you smell it. And I think I smell it, and I'm nowhere near dog poop playground. So I think it's coming from Washington, D.C.
And they can't do an interview.
No,
they can't do an interview.
Would any of them
with
say
Megyn.
yes to that?
No, of course not.
Like one of the only ways that fix it would be like 30 minutes to an hour press conference.
Come clean.
All the questions.
All the questions. And you got to have answers. That's the thing. You have to have answers. And again, Trump made it 1,000 times worse with what he did in that cabinet meeting.
Yep.
Alex Jones, have you heard this? Alex Jones actually was crying.
I just got to the office. I'm going to go throw up, actually, because I have integrity. And, I just really need the Trump administration to succeed and to save this country. And they're doing so much good. And then for them to do something like this tears my guts out.
And he was literally crying. So that's Alex Jones. He didn't say anything about the frogs being gay.
No, that's implied.
Not is that implied?
It's implied.
and Benny Johnson. And the reason I'm playing all these is because these are folks, Megyn Kelly aside, these are folks that have been supporters of Donald Trump. And Benny Johnson is like, come on, man, answer some questions.
It's a crisis. There's a crisis. And it's a tough crisis because something is horribly wrong here. This will never go away. It's better to just get out in front of it and prove that you're not covering up anything. And the more you try and cover it up, the more you look guilty or that you're protecting pederasts. You don't want that look.
And of course,
yeah, duh. It's not a good look.
No,
surprisingly
it's not.
enough, defending pedos and covering up for them, it's a bad look.
What was the word he said? Pederasts?
Pederasts.
Okay.
Pederasts.
Is that in the dictionary?
Yep.
Is it?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Pederast.
Pederast. Pederast.
Okay. Elon Musk said that Steve Bannon is on the list.
Yep.
I don't know. Elon
saying all this, he's implying that he's seen a list. So if you got all the answers, big guy, come on, lay it all out there. This is one of the things that infuriates me the most. It's like, oh, I have information that will lead to the arrest of Hillary Clinton. It's like, okay, well, put it out there.
Yeah.
How many times have we heard that crap?
Stop sitting on it and let it go. I think some of these guys, and this is kind of like an aside. I don't know if it really relates to this topic, but some of these guys just want credit for being the one that breaks the story. It's like, just put it on the internet for free, man, and let what happens happen.
Yeah, no, you're right. Let's see here. Ray says, okay, I'm going to say this for the fourth show now. Who was in charge the last 4 years when DOJ and FBI had the Epstein files? It was the corrupt Biden DOJ and FBI. So do you think it may have been destroyed? I've said this a number of times. So if they were destroyed, then they would have come back and they would have said, we believe that they have been destroyed.
Also,
they actually came back and said he committed suicide and there is no list.
And then you're ignoring all of the interviews that happened during the Ghislaine Maxwell trial. You're ignoring all the interviews and statements that happened during the Jeffrey Epstein trial. You're ignoring all of the evidence that hasn't been released around the investigation into his death.
Yep.
The autopsy stuff. You're ignoring the files and the data that was compiled at all of his residences. Where's the catalog on all that stuff?
And did they really traffic all those girls for one guy? Jeffrey Epstein?
Also,
Right.
and nobody talks about this, but there were birthing facilities in New Mexico.
Go on. I didn't hear that.
There were babies were being born at the
Jeffrey
Epstein
Epstein's
Epstein Ranch in New Mexico.
Oh, so there's just all these
so
these
when
guys
the women
were...
would become pregnant, you would have to deliver that baby. So where did those babies go?
Where are they?
That's a question. Is that for me?
No, man, I'm just kidding.
All right.
No,
Well,
it's
I
not
mean-
for you. I'd not heard about that. But listen, I'm not, shoulder deep in this story. I'd not heard of those. I've seen documentaries on this. I've not heard of the, what do you call them? The birthing
rooms.
Birthing rooms. Okay.
You mean hospitals?
No, well, it was.
No, it
was
would be a
at,
hospital.
It was at
It'd
his
be a birthing
house.
room.
It was at his house.
Was it at his house?
Yeah, New
Okay.
Mexico.
All right, I'll look that up. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Birthing rooms.
Well, I mean, it's a natural end result of what he was doing.
Okay, here's what's interesting. Because I'm trying to wrap my head around that. Why would you want DNA evidence that this guy, whoever it might be, had relations with a young girl? You would think that they would, I'm not pro-choice, but you would think that they would want it aborted.
Yeah.
Would you not? Why would they have birthing
And it's
rooms?
not like they're so moral that they would want them to
Right.
have the baby
Yeah,
instead of going for
pearl
a
clutching.
I mean,
abortion.
Yeah.
the dark side of it is that's now a baby off the record with no number, no name, no,
Yeah, where
no
are
paper
those
trail.
people? Like, I don't.
So, like, what can you do with that kid?
I'm having a hard.
It's-
All right, well, all
Yeah.
right. I didn't know about that part.
It's dark.
You should see Chris.
It is dark.
Hey, Joan. Oh,
Yeah.
wait, you can see it on the camera. You should see Chris's face looking at me like, you dumb A. How did you
No,
not
I didn't.
know
I'm
this?
not looking at you like that. There's so
I
much
feel
in this
judged.
case. No, don't feel judged. There's so
Okay.
much in this case that it's hard to keep up with, and it's been
And
years.
Ghislaine Maxwell needs to be let go.
Plus,
Yeah, clearly.
I mean, if there's no, right?
yes, if there's nothing there, then let her go.
Although what I said earlier was perhaps what she was doing was, I mean, the story could be that she was getting girls for Jeffrey Epstein, period.
Where are you at on the thought that intel agencies are involved?
I'm right up there. I'm like all the way
Like,
up.
I think that's one of the only things that makes sense.
That is the only thing that makes sense.
And Ghislaine Maxwell's dad had ties to Mossad.
Yep.
And he had a weird death. He had like one of the best funerals that you can get, all the honors.
Something's going on with that.
For me, sometimes I look at this and I think Epstein's been the fall guy the entire time, and Ghislaine is really the brains behind the operation.
We'll have to see. All
That's
right.
the twist of any movie. It's always the woman behind the man. That is the
If her
twist.
lawyers make an appeal and say, hey, we want to reverse this conviction,
That's when you know what's going to hit the fan.
that's right.
They
All right.
should. Why wouldn't you?
Interesting.
We're running late. Joan, what's up?
A couple of small kids rescued from a car in Georgia. It was 117 degrees inside that car, and we have the audio. Waymo is coming for your teenager. Those stories coming up here at 9 o'clock on Super Talk 99.7 WTN.
$8:57, Dan Mandis here for the HVAC company that I have been using for over a decade, Busy Bee Plumbing, Heating, and Cooling. Now, one of the things I've always loved is their mission to provide great service and save you money. Like this month, save big time on Busy Bee's smart Wi-Fi water shutoff valve, only $12.49 this month. You buy a whole new HVAC system, you get a free air duct fogging and UV light home treatment. And if you've got plumbing problems, well, Busy Bee has the answers there as well. $500 off of a Halo 5 whole home filtration system, or $1,000 off whole home water and drain line replacements. Look, the savings go on and on with Busy Bee. Check them out. Tell them Dan told you to reach out. 615-775-7833. 615-775-7833. You can find them online anytime. It's BusyBeeHVAC.com.